about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Donald Trump doubles down on his row with Labour.
Starmer's new Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, raises eyebrows as Donald Trump accuses him of anti-American election interference.
Well, with less than 2 weeks until the US election, could Starmer live to regret making an enemy of Trump?
The Prime Minister lands in Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting as he shrugs off calls for slavery reparations.
Well, the King and Queen join Sakir as their royal tour delights Samoan fans.
A woman is arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after 3 elderly people die in a Swanage care home.
Britain unites to pay tribute to our armed forces as the Royal British Legion's annual Poppy Appeal gets underway.
Do you think carrots make you see in the dark, or an apple a day keeps the doctor away? Well, send in your questions about food myths as we're getting to the bottom of it in about 20 minutes' time.
As it's revealed a majority of teenagers are foregoing work experience, we're debating this morning whether the rise of work from home is killing off student opportunities.
And in sport, the Champions League wins for Manchester City and Liverpool, while Celtic get an excellent draw away at Atalanta. In cricket, the decider in Pindi has just begun with England batting against Pakistan. And how much would you pay for a history-making baseball? Not a lot, I imagine.
Quite windy in the west today, but most places looking dry and bright, with some spots having some autumn sunshine. Will it last into Friday? Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
The clocks are going to change soon, aren't they?
No, Sunday, isn't it?
Is it this Sunday?
I think it's this
Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Yeah. It's a bad
vibe. Spring forward, fall. Oh, we get an extra hour.
Fall back, yep.
Get an extra hour in
But
bed.
doesn't it get darker at night time?
Yeah, but it's good for us at this time of the morning, means it's lighter in the morning.
I know, I prefer the light in the evening.
Oh, do you?
I find that super depressing.
Forward,
Don't you think? The worst is when it's 4 p.m. and it's
Stephen
dark.
will have this worked out.
I can't work.
Every twice a year.
Yeah.
Do you have that problem? Because I still have the same problem.
What of working
Does
out?
that give us...
forward, fall back, isn't it?
Yeah, but then you think, but does it give us more light in the... I mean, I know the answer, but I still can't really...
No, I could never work it out.
We're going to get more sleep, but it's going to be darker. That's the headlines.
Right, all right. Well, more sleep I'll go for. However, it's bad for your health, apparently. There's reports in the papers this morning, which, I mean, every time of year. But apparently, there is an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes on the day of the time change.
Wow.
And in the days following.
Do they say why?
Why?
Well, no.
That's incredible.
It doesn't say why, but
that's brilliant.
There are mood disturbances.
I get that.
I do
get that. The vibes are off.
And you know when you get a little bit of... what's that when you go abroad and then the time difference?
Jet lag.
Or a bit of... That's the word I'm looking for. There is... I know it's only an hour, but it does make a difference.
You feel groggy.
Yeah.
I think you just feel a bit discombobulated.
Yes, it's exactly what I feel.
That's maybe why.
The risk of fatal car accidents increases.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. And it's very bad if you've got teenagers.
Oh, really? Why?
Because they are if they're going through puberty and have delayed melatonin levels as a result, it really affects teenagers. You've got a couple of teenagers, haven't you?
I do. But this goes back from before the war, right? This is the reason that we still do the time change. Is that right?
I don't...
That starts getting deep because I think it's something to do with workers and farming or something around World War I, and it just never changed.
I think we should do away with the whole thing now.
Yeah, I think
don't
so
think
too.
there's any need for it. What do you think?
Well, I have an issue with it because if you got rid of it, then you'd have the whole year on BST, and that's the thing. Well, nowhere in the world would have GMT then.
Right.
And GMT is your actual time.
Well, should we not stick with GMT then? We'll just stick with GMT.
I would stick with GMT.
GMT will be winter, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, British summertime. Yes. Back, forward. I need to lay down.
I know, but it wouldn't happen like that. They'd put it all on BST.
Right.
We're gonna get
I think that's a good argument, actually, for keeping it. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say. I don't like it one bit. Oh, also get in touch on food myths, because we've got a nutritionist coming on in about 15 minutes' time, and there are so many food myths that we need to bust.
Right.
Including...
Such as?
If eating at night causes weight gain.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Does eating fat make you fat?
No.
Skipping breakfast, does it cause weight gain? Do carrots improve your eyesight?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Come on.
Are white potatoes unhealthy?
No.
Exercise makes you thin. Red meat is bad for you. There's loads. So we can get into all of that in about 15 minutes' time. So do send them in. gbnews.com/you'll say.
All right. Now let's crack off with a diplomatic row between the Labour government and Donald Trump. Gained a bit of momentum overnight. Senior aides to the Prime Minister are being accused of breaking US electoral law by advising the Kamala Harris campaign.
Well, it's been reported that two of the party's most senior officials were given VIP access to the Democratic Party convention in the summer.
Well, the new Downing Street Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, who took over from Sue Gray, also attended on, we're told, the Labour Party's dime.
Well, former President Trump's lawyers have alleged in a lawsuit this week that the party's actions amount to illegal foreign interference. So, big question this morning. Could this impact that special relationship that we so enjoy with the US?
I mean, the interesting thing is, of course, that people do get involved in other countries' campaigns. As long as they do it on their own dime, actually. I mean, look at... who's the Prime Minister? Oh, well, Farage, exactly.
For Trump.
Farage for Trump.
Would be a good example.
And that would be a very good example. Liz Truss went over to support him. So is that seen as anything?
Yeah, it does happen across the board, but the biggest question is who is paying for it. If you go off your own steam and you're a volunteer and you pay for it yourself, there's absolutely no problem, is there? Donating your own time and money. But it's when you are paid to do so where you can get yourself in hot water. So that's what this row is all about. And it's escalating, it's snowballing, isn't it?
It is. Well, yeah, there's certainly some capital to be made out of it. Let's talk to the editor of Spike, Tom Slater, who's here. Morning, Tom.
Morning.
What do you make of it all?
It is, to a certain extent, a whole lot of fuss about not very much. I think that's fair to say. Excuse me. So the fact that these two high-ranking party officials, John Lahow and David Evans, went to the Democratic National Convention is not that unusual. The fact that Morgan McSweeney was paid by the Labour Party to go again is not particularly unusual. I think there's a fair amount of stretching of the facts to suggest that they were somehow advising the Kamala Harris campaign, to be honest. Yes, Labour did win the last election, but are they really there to give out much advice, given how terribly everything has gone since? But at the same time, I think what the Trump campaign are trying to do, and are doing quite effectively, is on the one hand to basically, this is mainly for a domestic political audience, I think. They're very keen to latch onto anything which is seen to be election interference, which is seen to be the Democrats breaking the rules, because that's grist to their mill, isn't it? The idea that you're kind of getting your excuses in early, or you're trying to present the sense that the establishment and the ruling party are trying to fiddle the game. But there's a big problem for Keir Starmer, though, because of the fact that he does have this issue, which is that he has been trying to prepare for the possibility of a Trump administration again, despite the fact that his own entire party apparatus and indeed his own foreign secretary and indeed much of the support for the Labour Party are dead against Trump and almost would define themselves against him so much that they actually wouldn't mind going out to campaign. So it's not to say that this is clear-cut election interference by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a political row which Keir Starmer seems pretty badly placed to deal with.
And what's it mean if Donald Trump gets into the White House? What's it mean for our special relationship with the US?
Well, there's this... I think people get it wrong when they think of Donald Trump as someone who kind of actually bears a grudge. He's actually remarkably transactional, I think. And the number of people who had previously said very mean things about him, who he'd be very happy to glad hand with, to call a great guy. As soon as they kind of kiss the ring, he's sort of OK with people. I also think it's, the idea that this would damage the special relationship, I think also overstates what this is actually about. I think this is a quite canny kind of political stunt, if you like, by the Trump campaign. I don't think this is anything too much deeper than that.
Right. Just on this, let's say that a Labour Party spokesman has said it is common practice for campaigners of all political persuasions from around the world to volunteer in the US elections. Where Labour activists take part, they do so at their own expense in accordance with the laws and rules.
Can we ask you about the Prime Minister, staying on that theme? He has ruled out slavery reparations, hasn't he? Or at least pushed them to one side for now. He's travelling and he's about to land, actually, in Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. What do you make of this?
Yes, indeed. So quite punchy comments for Keir Starmer here about how, ahead of this Commonwealth summit, the time is not to talk about reparations. It should be about looking forward. It should be looking about the challenges that confront various Commonwealth nations now. But again, it's one of those things where his Foreign Secretary has kind of set him up for a difficult discussion about this because of the fact that previously David Lammy, only of a few years ago, was calling quite explicitly for slavery reparations for the Commonwealth. So it's one of those things where he's trying to say, let's not talk about that, let's look forward. But people have pointed to comments made by some of his own top team only as of a few years ago.
But we do, I mean, it's one of those issues. It keeps popping its head above the parapet. Just needs to be put down, doesn't it? Absolutely, draw a line.
I think so, because it's one of those things which is never really going to happen, even if you wanted it to happen. The idea that, say, the British public are going to be in favour of a policy which suggests that something that had nothing to do with them, something that they didn't directly benefit from, should be something that British taxpayers are paying for. Also, the idea that this is going to help the individual citizens of these nations is nonsense. You know, it's something which will probably barely impact their lives specifically, whereas what a lot of these countries need is investment, development, looking to the future, to coin a phrase from Keir Starmer there. But I think it's one of those problems where, particularly if you're a centre-left government, they can never bring themselves the courage to kind of say that this isn't a good idea and here's why. So they just have to continue dancing around it endlessly, it feels like.
Tom Slater, good to see you. Thank you very much.
Well, the King and Queen have started that state visit to Samoa, braving the heat and humidity to strengthen ties and enjoy the culture of the South Pacific island.
Yes, it's Their Majesties' first visit together to the country, which is currently hosting, as we've just heard, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
Well, our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is following the tour and is in Samoa for us this morning. Hi, Cameron.
Good morning, Stephen. It's incredibly hot and humid here, which is probably why we saw the King and Queen wearing some Samoan-style outfits earlier today. The King, a Royal Navy bush jacket made by Anson & Shepherd, which himself who designed it, but he had a little bit of help from the Samoan School of Arts, who designed that blue trim. The Queen, of course, wearing a tunic and palazzo trousers and Alan Valentine dress as well. But she was fanning herself. It was incredibly hot. But earlier today, they were at village in the north of the islands to tiny village hall in a very remote part of the world decked out with the British flag, welcoming 2 visitors who are recognised by billions. Very shortly, His Majesty the King is going to have a High Chief title bestowed upon him, and these local school children have all come to witness the proclamation. Talofa! Village life is central to the Samoan way, with a focus on family, church and duty, very similar to the royal family's ways. Village Chief Furatai explains why they're granting special status to His Majesty.
You just can't have a cup of tea with the king. We need to give him a welcoming ceremony in our cultural context, and that's what we're doing. You know, we say welcome Your Majesty, but as well we confer on you this title so that you can take back to Great Britain and remember our village, also Samoa.
The King mingled with villagers before rushing off to another engagement, but the Queen stayed behind, focusing on one of her passions, children's literacy. She watched how traditional storytelling techniques using the Bible help the children learn to read. Members of the local church presented Queen Camilla with gifts, showing their appreciation for her visit. Afterwards, I caught up with some of the students about what it means for them.
Great news for our village. Today has ended well. It was really nice meeting the Queen and the King.
We're very excited for this opportunity. We're so overwhelmed and thankful for Queen Camilla. It's a pleasure for us to meet the Queen and the King of Great Britain.
Tomorrow, the King's focus is on the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, a family of 56 independent nations, with King Charles as the symbolic head. Cameron Walker, GB News, Samoa. Well, the King earlier today was here at the Commonwealth Business Forum and his own Sustainable Markets Initiative, which is trying to encourage the private sector really to be more sustainable and meet climate targets. Of course, a huge theme for King Charles. Tomorrow is very much about the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and it is the King, of course, as head of a Commonwealth, the symbolic head of a Commonwealth, and it's the first time he's presided over this conference since Queen Elizabeth II.
OK, Cameron, for now, thanks very much indeed. Apologies that line kept dropping out, but he's in Samoa.
He is in Samoa.
On the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's a very small island nation, isn't it? But the King and Queen look like they're having a wonderful time, especially
good.
those children. Just wonderful. Thank you, Cameron, for bringing that to us. And they're wearing white, like us. We've taken after royalty today.
Yes, we have. About time. Now, on to serious matters at 6:15. And a 60-year-old woman has been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after 3 people were found dead at a care home in Swanage.
Well, shortly before her arrest, police confirmed the deaths were being treated as unexplained, with the working theory at the moment being carbon monoxide poisoning.
Well, Chief Superintendent Heather Dixie said 7 people are still in hospital as a precaution before saying there was no threat to wider public safety.
Well, joining us now is Director of Quality at Right at Home, Simon Osborne. Good to see you this morning, Simon. I mean, this is just such a shocking story, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, firstly, want to say, our hearts go out to the relatives of the 3 people who very sadly lost their lives yesterday. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of the sector, in relation to, thinking about them first and foremost at this time.
I know you are an inspector, aren't you, with the Care Quality Commission? I mean, this presumably, on the working hypothesis, it's carbon monoxide poisoning. I mean, these things should be regularly checked, shouldn't they? I mean, gas safety certificates and all the rest of it.
Yeah, they should be, Stephen. Sorry, just to clarify, I joined Right at Home 6 years ago from the Care Quality Commission, where I was formerly an inspector and then an inspection manager. But yes, you're right. Under health and safety legislation and also under the CQC regulated activities regulations, there should be absolutely carbon monoxide monitors, all sorts of other checks as well, water safety checks, checks, etc. And also critically from a CQC point of view, processes and procedures in place to very regularly check that the equipment is effective and obviously therefore keeps people safe at all times.
Simon, do we know what's happened to the other residents of this care home and the staff that are working there as well?
No, we don't. I mean, obviously, there was a short statement put out by Agin Care, who are the registered provider with CQC. So your viewers will probably be aware that the CQC registers a registered manager at each care home. So that's a residential home and a nursing home, and also registers the provider. So that's who I'm referring to there, who are Agin Care. And they put out a short statement saying that obviously, and as has been widely reported in the media, that the other people have been moved to safety whilst an investigation takes place at the care home, and presumably one presumes that with the hypothesis, the working hypothesis being carbon monoxide issues and potentially poisoning, that obviously that will be the focus and also of a potential criminal investigation as well.
I was going to ask whether there is room for things to be tightened up across the board in terms of safety, in terms of the checks that are carried out and what have you. But I guess if there's any reassurance from this, it's that this is a very unusual set of circumstances.
Yeah, it is extremely unusual, Stephen. Obviously, very thankfully. Things go wrong across care homes, across hospitals. You know, CQC regulate health and social care across the UK, and it really is extremely rare that these events happen. Things can be tightened up, and obviously, a really key element of care and quality is learning lessons from incidents, and this will be something that the Care Quality Commission will need to lead on. There'll be probably a joint investigation with the Health and Safety Executive because of the health and safety joint health and safety responsibilities, as I've outlined in care homes. And definitely there'll be probably a serious case review and lessons learned across the industry.
OK, Simon, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And look, I mean, it's obviously vitally important that lessons are learned.
Oh, they have to be.
However, 3 people have lost their lives, of which lessons are all far too late, aren't they, under those circumstances? It's absolutely shocking. But we'll have to wait and see what the investigations determine as a result of all of this. But so it's a working hypothesis of carbon monoxide. The fact that other people have... some people are in hospital being treated and other things are going on would indicate it's something along those lines, at least.
Yeah, 7 other of those residents are currently in hospital, I was reading this morning. So, of course, our thoughts are with their families and the families of the 3 people that died as well.
It's 6:20. Let's have a look at some of the other stories. Heading into the newsroom this morning.
And the sale of single-use vapes is set to be banned next summer in a new crackdown from the government. Legislation from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs has given businesses a deadline to sell remaining stock before it becomes illegal.
It's understood a Kurdish rebel group is likely to be behind the deadly terror attack on a defence and aerospace company in Turkey. Latest reports say 5 were killed, 22 injured. Turkey's Interior Minister has confirmed 2 of the suspects were, in their terms, neutralised during the attack.
Vice President Kamala Harris has denounced Donald Trump as a fascist who wants unchecked power after allegations by his former Chief of Staff, John Kelly, that he praised Nazi Germany. The Trump campaign has categorically denied the allegations made by John Kelly, who has since become a Trump critic. But Vice President Kamala Harris used the opportunity to criticise her presidential rival.
Donald Trump's former Chief of Staff, John Kelly, a retired 4-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States.
The former world's strongest man and British shot put record holder Jeff Capes has died at the age of 75. He set the record for the furthest shot put thrown by a British man in 1980. It was 21.68 metres. His family said that they would like to announce his sad passing on the 23rd of October. Jeff Capes was a household name, you know, back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, and all that world's strongest man thing, it used to be on.
It did used to be a
lot.
big thing, didn't it?
Pulling trucks and trains and all that sort of thing. It probably still goes on somewhere, but we don't really show it on TV the same.
No, I feel like I've seen the pictures though. They're familiar to me.
But anyway,
Very
it's a shame.
sad.
75 as well, that's no age.
There's no age these days, is it?
No, dear me, it's a shame.
Now, 23 minutes past 6, let's have a look at the weather with Alex Deacon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's a fine autumn day out there, dry and bright, and some of us seeing some good spells of sunshine, but it will be quite windy, especially in western areas, those winds continuing to strengthen around western coasts. As I said, for many, it'll be dry and bright, quite a lot of sunshine across East Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down towards Kent. There'll be some sunshine elsewhere as well, but there will generally be more clouds in the west, but even here, some blue sky coming through at times. Those winds are coming up from the south, so wafting up quite mild air, so particularly in the sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens in and around the London area. Should be a fine day on the Murray Firth with those southerly winds bringing fine conditions here, but in the far northwest there will be a weather front that's likely to bring cloud and some rain at times through the day across the Western Isles, that trickling towards the west coast come evening time. We'll also see some of that rain just creeping towards County Fermanagh, but again, most of the day, much of Northern Ireland dry and cloudy. North Wales seeing some breaks in the cloud, but the cloud thickening across the southwest, and here just a small chance of one or two late showers. Increasingly through this evening, though, the threat of more showery rain coming up across southwest England, into South Wales and across Northern Ireland. Could be quite heavy in places as this rain band spreads further north as we go through the night. Much of the east and most of Scotland will stay dry overnight, clearer skies, allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures across the far northeast, but for most, another pretty mild night with double digits to start Friday. We are going to start with a lot of cloud, and we will see some outbreaks of rain. Some uncertainty about how quickly this band of rain progresses tomorrow, but there could be some heavy showers around, particularly Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, and eventually creeping up into Northern England. But brighter skies should follow down to the south and west, and again, much of Scotland dry, and again, for most of us, temperatures in the mid-teens. Bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, do keep on sending in your food myths that you'd like to be busted. Things like, does spinach make you strong? Like pot pie. Because I used to believe that growing up. Does eating your crusts make your hair go curly? What are the ones you got? Carrots?
Well, custard puts hairs on your chest. Eating custard.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. You've had a lot of custard lately.
Stop. Do carrots make you see in the dark? Those kind of things. Do keep sending them in. We're going to be talking to a nutritionist. In 3 minutes' time, he's going to be busting some of those myths for us.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
It's 6:29 now. Were you told that eating your fruit and veg was essential to growing up strong?
Yes, or maybe eat your crusts and your hair will go curly. Well, one nutritionist is busting all food myths and now finally revealing the truth.
Yes, let's head to Derbyshire and the nutritionist, Helen Bond. Morning, Helen. I mean, we're all taught these little things and we sort of know they're not true. However, there's got to be a grain of truth behind a lot of it, hasn't there?
Absolutely. And, you know, there is so many food myths and sometimes misconceptions out there that sometimes it can be hard to know what is good for us and what we should be avoiding. But there's often a difference between a truth and a myth, and it's somewhat unclear. And like you say, there can be a grain of truth in them, but it's important to delve a little bit deeper and see if it's from a reputable source rather than just relying on hearsay or perhaps from a wellness expert that hasn't got a degree in nutrition.
As a nutritionist, then, what are the food myths that you would like to bust the most? What really grinds your gears?
Well, I think let's just talk a few that most of us have heard of. Eating an apple a day will keep the doctor away. And actually, this came from the 19th century when it says eating an apple before you go to bed will keep the doctor from earning his bread. And there's a lot of truth in that, in the sense of apples are full of fibre, they're really good for us, and they can help keep illness at bay. Another classic one is eating carrots can help see in the dark. Now, again, that came back in World War II when people said, well, you've got to eat lots of carrots because it helps you see clearly in a blackout. It did two things. It got rid of lots of surplus veg, which is a great thing for our health. And it also hoodwinked the Germans into thinking the real reason why the success in the nighttime, which was the actual power of radar. But we know carrots are brimming full of healthy vitamin A, which keeps our eyes healthy. And if you have a deficiency in that, then you're going to cause nighttime blindness. So that's another classic one.
It's part of the confusion with all of this sort of thing that, I mean, it's things like if you buy a packet of peanuts, for example.
Your favourite?
Well, I love a peanut.
He loves a peanut.
But it does say, you know, a great source of protein. Well, of course, they are packed with protein, but they're also about 50% fat, aren't they? So it's you sort of hide one good thing, or you hide one bad thing by labelling what's good about it.
Yeah, nuts are another classic myth, and they are high in fat, and that often means they're high in calories. And so if you look at it equal in terms of saying having a handful of nuts in comparison to a packet of crisps, yes, they do provide you with more calories and more fat, but the type of fat that's in there is really good, heart-healthy, unsaturated fat. And when we look at walnuts, which deserve a special mention, they're rich in omega-3 fats, which keep our heart healthy. Now, new research that's actually come out, commissioned by Whitworth, shows that if you have a handful of nuts 5 times a week, it can actually reduce your risk of developing heart disease by 50%, which is a pretty important statistic. And let's look at what else nuts provide, because we always talk about calories, but this is a classic example when not all calories are created equal. What else comes with their food? And when it comes to nuts, seeds, and also dried fruit, they are packed full of nutrition and vitamins and minerals that many of them are lacking in our diet. And fiber, I think fiber needs a really important mention. You know, it's one of those underrated nutrients. Only 1 in 9 of us actually meets our fiber quota, which is 30 grams a day. We're averaging about 19 grams of fiber, and protein, which you've already mentioned, is that hunger-busting combo that keeps you feeling fuller for longer.
Helen, do you think a part of all of this is the mixed messaging that's out there? We grow up with, you might call them myths, things like breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and if you skip breakfast, then there's going to be weight gain. But then now we've got this trend of intermittent fasting, haven't we? And people being encouraged to fast until 12 or 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I mean, people don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, it's no wonder that many of us are confused. And time-restricted eating, which you've just mentioned, is a very popular way of looking after our weight. Whether or not it actually can help our weight in the long term, we do not know. But when it comes to gaining weight, it's how much you eat throughout the course of the day. We typically eat during a 14-hour period and then fast for a typical 10 hours overnight. But for me, I'd rather people ate more in the morning time because it's good for our digestive health, rather than perhaps mindlessly eating in the evening and then going to bed feeling quite full. But it's during the course of the day that's most important in terms of looking after your weight. And if you take in too many calories and don't exercise those calories away, then you're going to gain weight.
What about eating late at night?
Yeah, and like I said, mindless eating in front of the telly. Sometimes you just don't know how many calories you're actually consuming. And I've mentioned digestion. Like I said, during the course of the day, how many calories you eat is really important for looking after your weight. But if you eat a lot of calories at night, then often you're going to bed with a really full tummy, which does not sit well in terms of helping your digestion and perhaps making you sleep well throughout the night. And we know sleep is really important for regulating our hunger. If we do not have enough sleep, then we're going to feel much more hungry throughout the day and perhaps not make better food choices. And that is really important when we come to talking about the nation's health, because diet has overtaken smoking in terms of the most cause of death in the UK. So we really need to look at what we're actually eating. And sadly, many of us are actually falling short on our fruit and vegetable quota, our fibre quota. So there's a lot that we need to do to improve our diet.
OK. Helen Bond, good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for those helpful tips and that advice as well. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, time for the Great British Giveaway, and you've got... Oh, well,
till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. Lines closed tomorrow.
Yeah, so don't miss out on your chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how.
Good luck.
Do stay with us. Still to come, Paul Coit is going to be here with all your sport. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays of up to an hour to Stena Line sailings between Care and Ryan and Belfast this morning. In Powys, the A470 is closed in both directions again today between Glentoimin and Carno for an ongoing police investigation. That's been closed since the early hours of Tuesday morning, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth. Some of those buses extending to Aberystwyth. The services between Machynlleth and Pwllheli running as normal. On the M4 in Berkshire, it's down to a single-lane westbound where a van's broken down at junction 5 at Langley. It's sloped towards and past there. On the M2 in Kent, the westbound exit at junction 2, the Strudham-Rochester turn remains closed for emergency bridge repairs. And on the M26 in Kent, there are westbound delays approaching the M25 because of roadworks. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The number of pubs may reach critically low levels.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is a decline in the number of pubs in Britain, and it's fallen. This is an absolutely astonishing figure. So it's basically fallen 10% in a decade. So do our maths. It doesn't take very long for that to happen. So if that carries on, we'd have, get this, only 1,000 pubs by 2074. So the big question is what will become extinct first: the bank branch on your high street, or the pub on your street corner? And this is a kind of perfect storm for landlords and landladies of, the cost of labour. We saw, remember when the energy prices were at the high, we just realised just how much energy it keeps to keep the lights on in the local boozer. Yeah. As well as, as the cost of the golden nectar itself. So, as they call it in Australia.
Well, talking about that, I was mentioning the other day to, was it my father-in-law? I said, when I first started going to the pub, I was 15,
Okay.
Half a lemonade, half a shandy.
I was nearly 16, I got half a shandy. No, we used to have Monday Club, where a pint of Foster's was £1.50. And my father-in-law was saying, I went to London the other day, a pint was £8.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And when you've got those kind of prices, why wouldn't you just go down the supermarket and get 16 tinnies for £5?
So you're going all Aussie now. Put the tinnies in the esky before you have the barbie.
Good day, mate. Why not?
Alex,
I agree, actually. I think it's concerning. A lot of people look at the high streets and they're very concerned that it's looking quite glum, to be honest. Lots of things are closing. But the reality is it's because people are not buying from the high street. They're not going to the pub, People are just deciding, what they're going to do in their spare time. Are they really going to go to the pub? Or are they going to potentially go to, David Lloyd or a Nuffield, join a gym membership? They're just looking at their expenses and just deciding, we're going to actually cut costs,
GB News, the People's Channel.
Time to go through all the latest sports news now. Paul Coit is here with us. Morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can we talk Champions League?
Shall we?
I'd like to.
Oh, well, I will then for you. Atalanta 0, Celtic
1.
2. No.
3.
No.
Oh.
What?
0.
Oh,
I feel like you really...
Well,
your
explanation was wrong.
We just go off you.
Well, the reason it was like that is because that's a very good result for Celtic. Because the last game... Well, they won 5-1 against Slovan Bratislava, and then they lost 7-1 to Borussia Dortmund. So you don't know what you're going to get, but they went away to Atalanta...
And got nailed.
In Italy. And, well, yeah, but
and that's the result.
It was expected that they would probably get beaten by Atalanta, and they did well and got a result there.
Well... sort of a result.
You're not happy with that, are you?
I'm not happy. No, I'm not
That's
happy with Celtic. I'm not.
OK, they got 4 points on the board. They've got to play RB Leipzig and Club Brugge.
Oh, Leipzig
next.
were playing Liverpool.
They were playing Liverpool. They played them last night, and Liverpool managed to beat Leipzig away in Leipzig. RB Leipzig, because this is one of the Red Bull clubs, as in Red Bull the drink.
Oh, I see.
Austrian, and that's who Jurgen Klopp is now working for.
Yes.
As one of these, head of football.
Head of world football.
Yeah, head of world football, which probably, actually...
Come on, it's not bad on a business card, is it?
You know it's going to earn him a few quid, don't you? You know that's what it's going to do. So he was watching the game from an undisclosed location. So Liverpool fans, yes, when we know where that is, somewhere in Mallorca. But anyway, 7th clean sheet of the season for Liverpool. I'll just give a few facts, because Arne Slot has slotted in very, very well. And I'm not even going to do that. He's a machine, a slot machine. I'm not going to do that because everything's going so well for him. It's the first time Liverpool have ever won 6 away games, the first 6 away games of the season. First time in English football that a manager has won 11 from his first 12, has done extremely well. So well done to them. And it's a good result. Again, another win in the Champions League. Manchester City 5, Sparta Prague
0.
Ellie, pay attention.
1.
0 is the answer, so well done, Stephen. Erling Haaland, and one of the greatest goals that people are saying in the Champions League, a back-heel volley from Erling Haaland, which every child is going to be trying to attempt from today.
Okay,
and I will attempt a little bit later in the next bulletin.
Who's playing tonight?
Well, we've got Spurs playing tonight. Spurs are playing AZ Alkmaar. From the Netherlands. Right. And Manchester United are away in Turkey at Fenerbahce, which is interesting because That's a certain Jose Mourinho's team, who was manager at Manchester United and now manager at Fenerbahce. So we'll talk about him a little bit later. Cricket going on in Rawalpindi at the moment, the third test.
This is the decider, isn't it?
It is the decider, absolutely, because the first one was terrific. Second one, not quite so good, but England doing very well, 40 without loss so far.
Jeff Capes.
Yes.
That's so sad, isn't it? It's no age at all.
I know. Well, 75, Ellie.
That's no age.
It is no age, but I've got to ask you, had you heard of Jeff Capes? Because it's certainly a generational thing.
Well, World's Strongest Man,
yes,
I'm familiar with.
Of course.
But Jeff Capes I wouldn't have known by name, to be honest with you.
Well, Jeff Capes, probably from the set. There's Jeff there on the right-hand side. Now, I'll tell a little bit about Jeff before we see a little bit of action and what he was. I know one of the things he was famous for. He was the British record shot putter. And this goes back to 1980. Still, to this day, nobody has broken that record. So then, in those days, we're looking at the 70s and early 80s, he wasn't making any money because he was very well known but all athletes were amateur. So he then turned professional. This is what he then started doing, is pulling trucks along because he then became World's Strongest Man. And it was a title he won twice, in 1983 and 1985. And everybody would know who he was. So it's like any variety show, any time on Record Breakers, anything to do with
Celebrity
strength.
Squares, he was on.
You name it. He was on everything, wasn't he? And they even had an extra big square.
Big square
for Jeff. And also, he was a budgerigar fancier as well. I think it's the proper term for that. He used to breed budgerigars. And I think, have we got something of him with budgies? Let's have a look.
Champion shot putter Jeff Capes is a budgie fancier who doesn't mind his hobby and obsession being put on a professional footing.
Jesus, you don't have to make the difference, mate.
Oh,
you've got to love a budgie, haven't you?
Oh, that's really nice.
I actually went to his house, Jeff
Did
Capes. Yeah, because when I was in local radio many years ago, and he lived nearby, and he said, "Oh, come and see the budgies." So I went round, and I'm trying to remember everything. All I remember is going round, meeting Jeff Capes, and then going out to this aviary which he had in the back garden, and then having lots of budgies around me, standing there with Jeff Capes.
Nice fella.
He was a lovely fella. He
Did
really
he have
was.
a big gym?
I don't know. I never saw the gym. I just saw the aviary.
I'd have to ask about the gym. I bet he had a great setup.
I don't think. Well,
I don't think
in those
day. Yeah, in those days they didn't have this cross trainers, and it was just this.
Just heavy weights, yeah.
Oh, good on him.
But a real legend of sport, legend of the World's Strongest Man, and also legend of the 70s and 80s.
Fabulous.
Died at the age of 75.
All right, Paul. Thank you. We'll see you a little bit later on. But in the meantime, we have got our poll of the day. Oh, there you are. Poll of the day.
Oh, yes.
We like to know what you think. So today we're asking, do you think the young take pride in wearing the poppy?
Yeah, let us know what you think. We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
Different poll. You've got a paper poppy and I've got a little metal one on.
Oh, yeah, you've got it. That's a nice row of poppies there.
It's a row of poppies.
You always treat yourself every year, don't you, to a special?
A special one every year to sort of the Royal British Legion online shop.
I like this one, though. What would you call that?
Well, it's a row of poppies, I don't know.
Very nice. I like a traditional paper one, but let us know what you think. For all the latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
And Paul will be voting a little bit later on.
Of course I will, yeah. I love the paper one. I'm always a fan of paper.
Right, we're going to go through the papers in a minute with Emma Wolfe and Andrew Eborn.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, Georgia. Your story is incredible. Just remind us of it. You quit running in, was it 2017? Because to be quite frank, your body was knackered, you had injuries, you thought you couldn't go on anymore. But then you started running again at Park Run in 2022. And of course, this summer at the Olympics, you won bronze.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, it has been a bit of a journey. And yeah, there was a period of time where I stopped running completely. And then park run was just something I got into with my friends, my family, just local community. And I started to see the improvements that led me to get back in contact with my old coach and just worked my way back up to elite level running and got a bronze medal this summer in Paris.
Did you ever think that would happen when you were beginning to take part in park runs again? Did you ever think you'd be winning bronze in the 1500 metres at the Olympics?
No, not at all. It would have been absolutely bonkers, I think, to think that at the time. It was just building my way up, but it was all about finding happiness in running again. And that's really what parkrun does, I think, really well.
And can you just tell us and the audience what had happened to you in 2017?
So I had been like a good junior athlete. I had gone over to the US on a track scholarship at university, and I just experienced so many different injuries. So various stress fractures in my shins, and I just graduated and just thought there's no way I can run anymore. So took a big break, and then yeah, over the past few years, I just got back into running slowly, built it up, and parkrun is just something that is on every Saturday. So many parks across the UK, very accessible, free. So it was just a really good way to get back into a fun but semi-level of competitive running.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Time for the papers this morning with the lawyer Andrew Eborn and the journalist Emma Wolfe. Morning to you both.
Good morning.
Let's kick off with the Sun, Emma. Vapes, disposable vapes, are going to be banned in about 8 months.
Yeah, so 1st of June 2025. This kind of comes quite soon after the pub banning outdoor smoking at pubs, so more accusations of nanny statism from our glorious leader. This is really about stopping young people. It's kids and young people that are very drawn to the disposable vapes with the fun flavours like bubblegum and candy floss and cola and all of that kind of thing. But it's also about the throwaway culture. So 5 million vapes are thrown away every week.
Oh, so it's really, a lot of waste.
It's about, really cracking down on the huge toll, kind of the litter in the environment. So the disposable vapes, not the the refillable vapes, they will be still available. The doctors like them. They like to be able to switch people from smoking real cigarettes to, God, it's keep up with all these different vapes. But yeah, so it's going to be the disposable, the fun vapes that actually Rishi Sunak was very concerned about, wasn't he?
He was. They say it's to stop the kids. I mean, the reality is the law says already you have to be 18 to buy these vapes. When we were growing up, they used to do these little candy cigarettes. You remember those? And the little coconut tobacco and that sort of stuff. Because the industry was trying to obviously educate people early about sort of trying to persuade them. But you're right about the nanny state stuff, because you're turning around and Raspberry Ripple and these all glorious flavours, which were designed with colours as well to attract kids. But if the law's already there, it's about enforcement of the law rather than just necessarily dealing with the other stuff as well.
Yeah, but there is the waste issue.
Definitely on the environmental side, absolutely.
And you'll notice in towns and cities across country, now I've said it to you, you're going to notice it everywhere you go.
Yes.
If you look at bins in your town centres, white stickers all around the top of those bins, it's from disposable vapes.
Yeah.
And they are covered, which is indicative, really, of how many are being thrown away every single day. Andrew, let's have a look at the Daily Telegraph, shall we? And this is Starmer's top aides are drawn into Trump row.
Well, Trump is brilliant at dominating the headlines for everything. You might remember the previous election, they talked about Russian interference. I reckon, I've got a theory, that basically what he's trying to do is to get in there early. What the campaign does, and some of the newspapers talk about it, there was a deleted LinkedIn Post by Sophia Patel. And what happened, that basically said, it was asking if anyone would be willing to travel to the US to help our friends across the pond elect their first female president. Show those Yanks how to win elections, is what she said on this thing. And as you rightly said at the beginning of the show, it's about funding. If you do it privately, then it's not an issue. The question is whether the Labour do as well. Well, Trump is a master at dominating the headlines. I've just got back from Cannes, and there was a glorious thing there by the co-editor of Variety, and he did this exposure about The Apprentice in Wonderland, it's called, and how Trump is effectively playing the role of a president. He learnt it all from Mark Burnett, who basically gave him the way to sort of do all the sound bites and so on and so forth. But basically, he was an apprentice star. This is why he did so well. And he was originally going to run against Obama in 2012, but he was being paid too much by NBC at that stage to run. So what's happening now, I reckon he's deliberately done this so that the narrative is against Kamala, and that's how to pronounce her name, Kamala Harris, as a result of it. But it's not going to go away. He's going to use this to his advantage, and he'll continue to do so. But it does beg questions, as you wisely said, about sort of Nigel Farage went over. He's a very famous supporter of Trump, but he probably did that on his own buck.
It is a bit different. It's a bit different when you've got 100 or more Labour sort of staffers and activists going over there. I know they were volunteering.
But they've always done it.
Always done
it. They all did it with Obama and...
Yeah, I know. I just don't think we should be interfering. And, you know, Morgan McSweeney, what's he doing over there? There's plenty to focus on in this country. So I do think, OK, it's always been done, but I do think that
it's illegal to interfere, but it's about who funds it. And so that'll all come out. But the story will run and run and run.
It will.
I mean, wasn't it David Cameron, though, when... Was it John McCain when he was running?
Yes.
Or at least running for the ticket and said, you know, and welcomed him to the UK and said, this is the next president of the United States.
No, you're absolutely right.
And surely the more important point is that it may well be that Starmer has to work with a Trump in the White House, much as that, you know, will horrify all the left.
We're out of time, you two. I'm very sorry. And it was quick. Here's the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's a fine autumn day out there, dry and bright, and some of us seeing some good spells of sunshine, but it will be quite windy, especially in western areas, those winds continuing to strengthen around western coasts. As I said, for many, it'll be dry and bright, quite a lot of sunshine across East Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down towards Kent. There'll be some sunshine elsewhere as well, but there will generally be more clouds in the west, but even here, some blue sky coming through at times. Those winds are coming up from the south, so wafting up quite mild air, so particularly in the sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens in and around the London area. Should be a fine day on the Moray Firth with those southerly winds bringing fine conditions here, but in the far northwest there will be a weather front that's likely to bring cloud and some rain at times through the day across the Western Isles, that trickling towards the west coast come evening time. We'll also see some of that rain just creeping towards County Fermanagh, but again, most of the day, much of Northern Ireland dry and cloudy. North Wales seeing some breaks in the cloud, but the cloud thickening across the southwest, and here just a small chance of one or two late showers. Increasingly through this evening, though, the threat of more showery rain coming up across southwest England, into South Wales and across Northern Ireland. Could be quite heavy in places as this rain band spreads further north as we go through the night. Much of the east and most of Scotland will stay dry overnight, clearer skies, allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures across the far northeast, but for most another pretty mild night with double digits to start Friday. We are going to start with a lot of cloud, and we will see some outbreaks of rain. Some uncertainty about how quickly this band of rain progresses tomorrow, but there could be some heavy showers around, particularly Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, and eventually creeping up into northern England. But brighter skies should follow down to the south and west, and again, much of Scotland dry. And again, for most of us, temperatures in the mid-teens. Bye for now.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays of up to an hour to Stena Line sailings between Cairnryan and Belfast. In Paris, the A470 remains closed each way between Glantoimin and Carno for an investigation, with buses replacing trains again today between Shrewsbury and Cunliffe. Some of those trains extended to Aberystwyth, though trains between Cunliffe and Pwllheli are running as normal. Now, the M1 from Leicestershire into Northamptonshire is partly blocked southbound by an accident just after junction 19, the M6 A14 Catthorpe interchange, causing roughly 3 miles of queues. On the M4 in Berkshire, it's down to a single lane westbound where a van overturned at junction 5 at Langley, causing delays. On the M2 in Kent, the westbound exit at junction 2, the Strudham Rochester turn remains closed to repairs. And on the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is the fun.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good morning to you. Donald Trump doubles down on his row with Labour.
Yes, Starmer's new chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, raises eyebrows as Trump accuses him of anti-American election interference.
Well, less than 2 weeks until the US election. Could Sir Keir live to regret making an enemy of Trump?
Well, the Prime Minister lands in Samoa today for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting as he shrugs off calls for slavery reparations.
The King and Queen are in Samoa as well, as their royal tour delights fans there.
A woman is arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after 3 elderly people die in a Swanage care home.
Disposable vapes will be banned by next summer. The government's accused of nanny state nagging.
Britain unites to pay tribute to our armed forces as the Royal Legion's annual Poppy appeal gets underway.
It's revealed a majority of teenagers are foregoing work experience. We're debating whether the rise of work from home is killing off student opportunities.
And in the sport, in the Champions League, Man City and Liverpool a win, while Celtic get a point in Italy. Jose Mourinho is up to mischief again as he faces his old team with his new one, and more on the late and very strong Jeff Capes, who's passed away at the age of 75.
Quite windy in the west today, but most places looking dry and bright, with some spots having some autumn sunshine. Will it last into Friday? Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Who's being mischievous? Paul Coyte?
Mischievous.
No.
Mischievous. We've had this. That's why I went with mischief. So mischievous, mischief. You know what? Are there words that there's so many?
I said mischievous on air last week, and I didn't realise it was mischievous, but it is.
You got told off by many of you messaging.
I had one very polite email actually saying, "Ellie, you can't say it that way."
No.
If you hear
so now you know, and I'm passing on the baton.
I know. Thank you. And I pick it up.
Yeah.
And I will run with it. But is there when someone says something, because there are some words that you think, oh, and I've done them, but. Do you then go, actually, that's not the right word?
I have to. Well, it depends.
Stephen Dixon knows all the words.
I know.
I'm like President Trump. I know all the words.
Yeah, just not necessarily in the right order. Necessarily.
That's showing your age. No, well, I would say to a colleague if they were getting it wrong. But in real life, it doesn't matter, does it? If people want to get it wrong, what does it matter?
The only one that drives me mad, and it's not someone pronouncing it wrong, it's using it in the wrong context, is when you'd say generally and genuinely, and people get it confused. Yeah, maybe that's an Essex thing, I don't know. You'd be like, I generally feel that. It's like, do you generally feel that?
Yeah,
Genuinely.
Or you genuinely.
That would drive me mad.
Oh, it drives me bonkers, but it does happen a lot.
The one that really drives me mad is when people say, we all have different pronunciations. It's like, it's pronunciation.
Pronunciations.
For a kick-off.
Yeah, pronunciations drives me mad.
There are
And lieutenant and lieutenant.
Oh, yes.
That's a clanger.
Yes,
that's a clanger. I think my favourite one of using the wrong word, and I swear this is true, I was in a pub once and someone came in and something had happened, I can't remember what happened, and he went, whoa, that sounds omnibus. And I just loved that, and I still that's still my favourite.
Good one.
That sounds omnibus. Yeah,
that's very good.
That's a good one. I think that's quite endearing.
Me too.
Yeah.
Anyway, let us know yours. gbnews.com/yours say.
Tell your wife when you get home that she looks radishing.
Yes.
That's from an old sitcom from the 70s. Ooh, husband came home, I radished me.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it's an old sitcom.
But you know, if it was in the 70s, there's no chance I'd remember that because I'm
far too young.
He wasn't born yet.
Far too young. Yeah, right. OK, let's kick off with the proper news for you this morning because the diplomatic row between the Labour government and Donald Trump gaining some momentum overnight. Senior aides to the Prime Minister are being accused of breaking US electoral law by advising the Kamala Harris campaign.
Well, it's been reported that two of the party's most senior officials were given VIP access to the Democratic Party convention back in the summer.
Well, the new Downing Street Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, he's the one who took over... Well, he was in place before Sue Gray, then she took over from him, and he's got the job back now, has also attended, apparently, on the Labour Party's dime.
Well, former President Trump's lawyers have alleged in a lawsuit this week that the Labour Party's actions amount to illegal foreign interference. Big question this morning is, could this impact the special relationship between the US and the UK?
Let's talk to editor of Spiked, Tom Slater. Is this a serious diplomatic matter or a storm in a teacup?
Probably a little bit of both. I think it's fair to say that what we've got here originally in terms of the allegations themselves, is it that unusual for a centre-left party to go to the convention of the centre-left party in America? Not at all. Is it that unusual for there to be contacts, conversations that go on? Of course not. It's worth saying that the Labour Party's line on all of this is that these activists who went out, about 100 of them, did so more or less on their own steam. This wasn't something that the Labour Party were centrally organising. That would look very odd. That would look very much like meddling. But at the same time, I think Keir Starmer's, how he handles this could have diplomatic impacts. You know, the big problem he has always had to maintain is that he is at the head of a party, and the Liberal left more broadly respond to Donald Trump in a kind of visceral way. He's everything that they despise, and yet he's someone who he may well have to do business with very soon after. So how he handles this could be quite indicative. But I think it's worth saying Donald Trump is not someone who actually holds much of a grudge. I think he quite likes it when people have to kind of prostrate themselves in front of him, whether it's David Lammy or anyone else. So whether or not this actually has an impact on the long term, I'm not so sure. But it's something that if he mishandles it, could be quite ugly for a few weeks.
Could this be a case of Donald Trump wanting to get in there first? Because the diplomatic sources in the papers today suggesting that Trump's motivation is in part to distract, even in a small way, from claims that Russia previously tried to interfere on behalf of his campaign. So this, they suggest, is him throwing mud at Harris and hoping some of it sticks.
Yeah, and even if it's not to distract from the Russia piece itself, I think also just to kind of create the sense that the Harris campaign is putting its thumb on the scale in some way, shape or form. Obviously, he had his claims at the last election that there was... that the election was stolen, things that I don't think are backed up by the evidence, but nevertheless, that's very much his narrative. So I think anything that would suggest that there is some kind of chicanery on the other side is certainly grist to his mill in this election.
Does it matter if Trump wins, does it matter if we don't have such a wonderful relationship? I was just sort of thinking of George W. and Tony Blair, where, I mean, Tony Blair was described as his puppy dog. I mean, if we have a situation where we don't necessarily just do whatever the US tells us, does that matter?
Well, I think the special relationship has always been a little bit one way, as far as it matters a lot diplomatically from the UK side. Does it matter so much from the US side? Less so. I think it's also worth remembering that everyone and his mother was being rude about Donald Trump in the run-up to 2016. You know, you had Boris Johnson trading jibes with him when Donald Trump made comments about London. You had David Cameron making comments about him. So even the kind of centre-right parties had a lot of, shall we say, inconvenient quotes that could be presented to them. I think it comes down to the fact that Donald Trump is actually quite transactional. Yes, he can take offence at things, but I think he also likes it when someone who has previously had words to say about him then has to kiss the ring, as it were. So there's the longer-running debate about what the special relationship is, who really benefits from it, does it make Britain look subservient and so on. But there's also the fact that I think when it comes down to it, Donald Trump is someone who likes it when someone has to kind of eat their words, including his own vice presidential pick, who's had previous quite harsh words to say about him.
Yeah.
Well, on this, a Labour Party spokesperson has said it is common practice for campaigners of all political persuasions from around the world to volunteer in US elections. Where Labour activists take part, they do so at their own expense, in accordance with the laws and rules.
Just a very quick thought, Tom, on what do we make of John Kelly, former Chief of Staff to President Trump, who's turned on his former boss?
No, it's a big moment. It's something that Kamala Harris has jumped on. He's given these comments to the New York Times, suggesting that Trump had essentially praised Hitler, had said that he wanted generals as Hitler did, as in loyal to him rather than loyal to the Constitution. The Trump campaign has pushed back very forcefully against those. There's not a lot of context that's been provided. But I think, at least from the perspective of the Harris campaign, running on this whole anti-Trump, Trump is a fascist, Trump is a threat to the Republic, regardless of the substance of those claims, I happen to think they're overblown. You can be against Trump without comparing him to the worst regime in history. But they're not. It's not working. It's not landing. And I think actually Harris does a lot better when she's talking about what it is she wants to do, rather than just constantly posturing against a kind of fear-mongering version of Trump, if you like.
OK. Tom, thanks very much indeed.
Now, the armed forces community will come together today to launch the Royal British Legion's annual Poppy Appeal, which this year highlights the mental scars that can result from experiences in military service.
Well, let's talk to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who's at HMS President in East London. Morning, Charlie.
Morning, Stephen. Morning, Ellie. Well, behind me, the RBL is starting that process for the launch of this year's Poppy Appeal, which is focusing on mental scars. And accordingly, I have serving personnel from all three services behind me, currently conducting a mindfulness session, starting the day to reflect and recuperate and stretch and prepare themselves for the day ahead. And I'm also very happy to say that I'm joined by Ruby and Dan Sheffield, the Sheffield family, a veteran, Dan, and also Ruby, his daughter, a campaigner with the RBL. Ruby, tell us about what you've raised for the RBL and why you get involved with the campaigning.
So when I was 4 years old, I asked my mum the question, why do we only support them once a year? And she said, I don't know, Ruby, why do we? And that's when I started, when I was 4 years old, raising money for the RBL by collecting glasses in the pub. And then I went on to making paper cards, and over time it's just progressed into cards and coasters and picture frames and other things like that. And then I'll go off and I'll sell them in places like the Darwin Centre and Telford Town Centre.
So this is a Shrewsbury family, you're raising money for the RBL. Dan, you must be enormously proud of your daughter.
Oh, I'm immensely proud. I mean, I couldn't imagine to do anything like that when I was her age. Yeah, and I mean, she gets up at silly o'clock in the morning and she's working tirelessly on her crafts and puts in so much effort. It is absolutely brilliant.
And Dan, you were a veteran of the Royal Logistics Corps, where you were a driver. I can see on your chest you've got the Afghanistan medal there. What does the Poppy Appeal mean to you?
Oh, it's everything to me, really. I mean, I've had friends that have been to them and they've been supported, but it's not just serving personnel or veterans. It's also their families. I mean, a lot of the time the families don't know where to turn when their loved ones are in crisis, and they are there to help.
And Ruby, your dad being a veteran, it must make this so much more personal for you, supporting the RBL every year.
Yeah, because it means I know, like, because my dad is a veteran, I know what it's going to go to because of the mental health issues and other things like that. I know what it's going to go to, and it feels good. It feels good all the time when I'm raising money because I know it's going to go to someone who actually needs it.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for speaking to us this morning, and well done, Ruby. Well, the RBL will continue their appeal today, several more sessions on this morning, and I'll be joining you every hour with plenty of updates and to speak to more inspiring and wonderful voices like we've just heard from Ruby and Dan.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Charlie, thanks very much indeed. They do incredible work.
They do.
Actually, the RBL.
And Ruby, what a superstar.
Yeah, good on her.
Yeah.
Good on her.
And it is so important, isn't it, that that next generation knows and understands not only what our veterans have been through, what they continue to do, but also raising those much-needed funds as well, which is why it's so important that if you can buy a poppy, and you can do so from today.
Yes, lots of different ones. There's lots of...
modelled by Mr. Stephen Dixon today.
I've got a little one from the RBL online shop, or you can buy a paper one like Ellie's done, and from all the people who are out and about in the streets. So just get your loose change. People say we don't need cash anymore. What are you going to put in the box?
You can tap, actually, with the RBL stands. I've done that before.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and you can buy the nice wreaths, and you can buy the blingy ones as well. Oh, I've put lots on my card before.
Good.
I get very excited at the RBL stands. I want to buy everything. I find it so heartwarming, don't you?
Well, it does.
When the appeal is launched.
That money goes to very good causes and helps people who put their lives on the line for us. So it's got to be remembered.
Money well spent, isn't it? Now, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. You know that. But every day, we're going to be running our poll of the day. Today, we are asking, do you think that young people take pride in wearing the poppy? We're going to be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned.
Yeah, final result will be announced in Martin Daubney's show. And for all our latest polls, news and how to vote, go to gbnews.com/poll or scan that QR code on your screen.
Now, the King and Queen have embarked on a state visit to Samoa, braving the heat and humidity to strengthen ties and enjoy the culture of the South Pacific island.
Yeah, it's their first visit together to the small country, which is hosting CHOGM, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
Well, it's incredibly rare for a senior member of the royal family to visit the island of Samoa. In fact, the last time was in the 1970s when it was the late Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip visiting on the royal yacht Britannia. This time, of course, it is the King and Queen, and there is intense heat and humidity here in the South Pacific, so they're not wearing their traditional suit and tie or dress for the Queen. The King has a bespoke outfit made for him by a Savile Row tailor, apart from the trim, which has been designed by the Samoan School of the Arts. Camilla is wearing a Anna Valentine tunic. And earlier today, the King and Queen visited a local village in the north of the island, Moata. We were there too, and you'd be mistaken that it was actually Great Britain because it was pouring down with rain and there were Union flags absolutely everywhere. But they were there for a very special reason, a traditional ceremony which happens very rarely. Take a look. A tiny village hall in a very remote part of the world decked out with the British flag, welcoming two visitors who are recognised by billions. Very shortly, His Majesty the King is going to have a High Chief title bestowed upon him, and these local school children have all come to witness the proclamation. Talofa! Village life is central to the Samoan way, with a focus on family, church and duty, very similar to the royal family's ways. Village Chief Furatai explains why they're granting special status to His Majesty.
You just can't have a cup of tea with the king. We need to give him a welcoming ceremony in our cultural context, and that's what we're doing, you know. We say, welcome, Your Majesty, but as well, we confer on you this title so that you can take back to Great Britain and remember our village, also Samoa.
The King mingled with villagers before rushing off to another engagement, but the Queen stayed behind, focusing on one of her passions, children's literacy. She watched how traditional storytelling techniques using the Bible help the children learn to read. Members of the local church presented Queen Camilla with gifts, showing their appreciation for her visit. Afterwards, I caught up with some of the students about what it means for them.
Great news for our village. Today has ended well. It was really nice meeting the Queen and the King.
We're very excited for this opportunity. We're so overwhelmed and thankful in Camilla. It's a pleasure for us to meet the Queen and the King of Great Britain.
Tomorrow, the King's focus is on the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, a family of 56 independent nations, with King Charles as the symbolic head. Cameron Walker, GB News, Samoa.
Oh, it's nice to see them getting involved with that. And they always seem really happy when they are meeting real people.
Oh, that's where...
Especially young people.
That's where they shine, isn't it? Yeah, especially with the children. But they've had such a warm welcome. I mean, at Sydney Opera House the other day, I think there were 8,000 people straining to get close to them and get pictures and handshakes and things.
Well, who wouldn't?
It was so lovely. And now similar scenes in Samoa. It's lovely.
It is nice. Good on them. Right, let's have a look at some of the other main stories. Heading into the newsroom at 7:18.
And the sale of single-use vapes is set to be banned next summer in a new crackdown from the government. Legislation from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, has given businesses a deadline to sell remaining stock before it becomes illegal.
A 60-year-old woman has been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after 3 people were found dead at a care home in Swanage. Police have confirmed the deaths were being treated as unexplained. There is a working theory that they could be carbon monoxide poisoning.
It's understood a Kurdish rebel group is likely to be behind the deadly terror attack on a defence and aerospace company in Turkey. Latest reports say that 5 people have been killed and 22 injured. Turkey's Interior Minister has confirmed that 2 of the suspects were, in their language, neutralised during the attack.
And someone who was twice the world's strongest man and also British shot put holder, Jeff Capes, has died at the age of just 75. He set the record for the furthest shot put thrown by a British man in 1980, 21.68 metres. That record has still not been broken.
At 7:20, let's take a look at the weather now with Alex Deacon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's a fine autumn day out there, dry and bright, and some of us seeing some good spells of sunshine, but it will be quite windy, especially in western areas, those winds continuing to strengthen around western coasts. As I said, for many, it'll be dry and bright, quite a lot of sunshine across East Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down towards Kent. There'll be some sunshine elsewhere as well, but there will generally be more clouds in the west, but even here, some blue sky coming through at times. Those winds are coming up from the south, so wafting up quite mild air, so particularly in the sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens in and around the London area. Should be a fine day on the Murray Firth with those southerly winds bringing fine conditions here, but in the far northwest there will be a weather front that's likely to bring cloud and some rain at times through the day across the Western Isles, that trickling towards the west coast come evening time. We'll also see some of that rain just creeping towards County Fermanagh, but again, most of the day, much of Northern Ireland dry and cloudy. North Wales seeing some breaks in the cloud, but the cloud thickening across the southwest, and here just a small chance of 1 or 2 late showers. Increasingly through this evening, though, the threat of more showery rain coming up across southwest England, into South Wales and across Northern Ireland. Could be quite heavy in places as this rain band spreads further north as we go through the night. Much of the east and most of Scotland will stay dry overnight, clearer skies, allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures across the far northeast, but for most another pretty mild night with double digits to start Friday. We are going to start with a lot of cloud, and we will see some outbreaks of rain. Some uncertainty about how quickly this band of rain progresses tomorrow, but there could be some heavy showers around, particularly Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, and eventually creeping up into Northern England. But brighter skies should follow down to the south and west, and again, much of Scotland dry. And again, for most of us, temperatures in the mid-teens. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now the clock is ticking on the Great British Giveaway. You've got just over 24 hours to enter.
Yes, so don't miss out on your chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how.
This is the luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Lord Johnny Oates tells us all about a lifetime of uncovering forgotten famines and wars. It's all inspired by Michael Burke's 1984 documentary on Ethiopia. He'll be telling us more next.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home? Talking about? Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy. Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Feed the world. Do they know it's Christmas? All that sort of thing. That was all... I mean, what an incredible thing that was. Live Aid. It was all triggered by a report by Michael Burke, back on the BBC, actually. And this October, it is 40 years since Michael's report on the famine in Ethiopia.
It was the first time that the full horror of what was happening in Ethiopia had reached beyond the frontiers of this battle-scarred, beleaguered country, and it touched the conscience of the world.
Well, the report had a profound impact on many people, including a 15-year-old boy called Johnny Oates.
Well, desperate to help, Johnny stole his father's credit card and booked a flight to Ethiopia.
Well, ever since then, he's dedicated his life to helping those most in need.
Well, he joins us now. He's the CEO of United Against Malnutrition and Hunger. Good to see you this morning. I mean, where are we 40 years on from that appalling situation, which did trigger a global response? But where are we now?
Good morning, and it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
I think where we are is we've made remarkable progress since 1990. Between 1990 and 2015, we, as a world, managed to halve the number of people facing severe hunger. And in Ethiopia, in fact, managed to reduce that number by 57%. So that's really impressive progress. The danger is that we're sliding back now, partly as a result of conflict, partly as a result of the disruption of food systems due to first the COVID crisis and then the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So we've got lots of work to do. And whilst we see crises such as Sudan, where there is a famine already declared in parts of Darfur and in other conflict areas, we also have a silent crisis of malnutrition worldwide, where children are just not getting the nutrients they need to develop and grow, and we need to address that as well.
How do we fix this? What are the long-term solutions? Because 40 years on, what we're hearing with you talking about Sudan now is not much has changed. There are still people starving in our world. How do we stop that from happening? Can we ever stop it from happening?
Well, as I say, it's not true to say that nothing has changed. A huge amount did change, and the numbers of people, as I say, the proportions of people suffering extreme hunger fell very significantly. You're absolutely right that we have crises driven by a conflict in particular, whether that's in Sudan or whether it's in Gaza or the DRC, Afghanistan or other places. So there's some long-term things we've got to do as a world, and they're difficult problems to solve, but we've got to do all we can to resolve conflict. That's absolutely key. We've got to think about how our food systems work to provide us all with the nutrients that we need, because we have this double crisis that in some low and middle income countries, you have both people who are undernourished, and then you have people who suffer malnutrition from these fast foods that are increasingly coming into those countries. We also have problems in our own countries about poor nutrition. We've got to address that. The good news is there are some simple things we know how to do. For around $2.50 for the whole course of a pregnancy, we can get multi-nutrients to pregnant mothers, which has an extraordinary impact on ensuring that children, when they are born, are well equipped to grow and develop. We can do simple things like that, and we can work together in partnership with governments on the ground to deliver interventions that make a real long-term difference. But it's a complex thing. But if we all work at it, we've shown that when we come together as a world in the past, we can make massive differences. We just need to do that again.
It's just, when you say complex, I wonder if that underestimates it slightly. I mean, you look at what was happening in Africa and what is still happening in parts of Africa. I mean, it is, as you say, driven by conflict, partly just driven by the basic conditions there, where you need immediate relief and long-term strategies. But that's very, very different, isn't it, to dealing with countries which are comparatively well off, but where you say malnutrition is actually, because of the way the world is evolving, is a big issue. And I don't know how you approach those very different issues.
Well, you're absolutely right to say that it is extremely complex, and we have to deliver on a whole range of long-term and immediate solutions. We have to look at the whole international financial architecture. For example, lots of countries in Africa are paying huge amounts in servicing their debts. Now, it's not because they have particularly high debts compared with us, but the interest rates that they charge are massive. That prevents their ability to invest in the sort of things that we need. Then there's the simple sort of solutions on the ground, like getting the vitamins that all pregnant women here would expect to have to pregnant women, checking that young people have access to nutrients as they're growing up. The school that I taught in rural Zimbabwe many, many years ago is running projects where they're growing a whole range of different vegetables and crops to ensure that the children who go to that school are properly, that have the proper nutrients available to them. So there are lots of things that we can do. We should do the simple things first. We need to do the complex things as well. But what we must never do is give up trying to make a difference, because when we do, that's when we slip back. When we work together on these complex problems, we've made huge progress in the past.
Okay. Lord O, it's really good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Paul Coit is going to be here talking about the late Jeff Hayes.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays of up to an hour to Stena Line sailings between Cairnryan and Belfast. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, the westbound exit at junction 26 at Chain Bar is partly blocked with queues from junction 27 at Gildersham, and the outside lanes closed eastbound for emergency repairs at junction 25 at Brighouse, causing queues from junction 24 at Ainley Top. In Powys, the A470 remains closed each way between Glentoyman and Carno for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and McCunliffe. On the M1 from Leicestershire into Northamptonshire, there are 2 lanes closed southbound at junction 19, the M6A14 Catthorpe interchange, where overnight roadworks have overrun. There are queues towards there. And on the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 3 lanes closed westbound, where a van's overturned at junction 5 at Langley, causing delays from junction 4B for the M25.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home? Talking about? Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy. Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets at my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sports time. Paul Coit is here with us. Morning.
Good morning. Shall we try again?
Yes.
Atalanta 0, Celtic
0.
Correct.
What a great result for Celtic.
You know what? I was going to say exactly the same thing, Stephen. It's funny you should say that, because to go away to Atalanta and get a result, and that's what Celtic wanted, very good, because it's in the Champions League. 4 points. They've still got to play Club Brugge from Belgium at home. Still got to play Leipzig at home as well. So who knows how things are going to go. So, you know, after the beating that they took from Borussia Dortmund last, which Celtic fans don't like to talk about, so I won't mention it anymore, it was a good result to go away at Atalanta. Not to go at Atlanta. That's somewhere completely different. And get a point. Manchester City beat Sparta Prague 5-0. All the talk is Erling Haaland and his amazing goal. It was a back heel volley, facing the wrong way. Ball comes over, foot backwards in the goal.
Oh, I love it when they do that.
I love it as well.
So clever.
Is that skill or potluck?
I think it was skill.
OK.
Yeah, well, what do you think? He was just flung a foot at it.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So you look at some of these things, you think, well, that can't have been planned.
No, it was skill. It was a very good goal. Longest unbeaten run now in Champions League history, Manchester City, 33 games, although it doesn't count when they got beaten on penalties, which I still think is a loss, don't you? That's still a loss, but apparently not. RB Leipzig 0, Liverpool 1. They're looking very good as well, continuing to go through it. First 11 games, they've won 11 out of 12 so far with the new manager Arne Slot. So, and Jurgen Klopp, because they were playing RB Leipzig, who are run by Red Bull, therefore the, what is it, head of world football?
Head of world football.
That's his title, Jurgen Klopp.
World head of football.
World head of world football.
World
of
Lord
football.
of football.
Lord of world, head of the football world, Jurgen Klopp. Would have been watching from an undisclosed location, which we think it is his home, don't we?
Yeah,
that's where we think it was, because obviously with Liverpool and his history,
it's
like
money.
you're just sitting there thinking, keep it coming. And
should we look to tonight?
We should look to tonight.
Yes.
Manchester United play away to Fenerbahce of Turkey. And you know what the link is there, or who the link is.
Well, it's Mourinho, isn't it?
It is Jose Mourinho, yeah. So Jose Mourinho was in the press conference yesterday. By the way, he lives in a hotel. He lives in a hotel because that's what he did when he was at Manchester United. He lives apparently in the Four Seasons on the banks of the Bosphorus in Istanbul. And it was said that a restaurant, he goes to the same restaurant and has the same meal. So he has chicken soup, has pizza and one scoop of ice cream.
Well,
every night.
Apparently, that's what he does. So he was in the press conference yesterday, and he's very cheeky because he was asked what he thought about Manchester United and Eric Ten Hag, but as Jose Mourinho would always do, would turn it back to himself. And let's see what he said.
Giving him conditions to keep developing his job. That was a difference in relation to me, because as you know, we won Europa League. We finished second in the Premier League. I think we still have a chance to win that league, because maybe they punish Man City with points, and maybe we win that league, and they have to pay me the bonus and give me the medal.
You go, cheeky old Jose. So he's saying that should those charges against Manchester City come through, therefore he would be the most successful Manchester United manager, and then he should have his medal and have his bonus for winning the title.
Good on him.
Always back to him. Always back to Jose.
Can we talk about Jeff Capes?
Yes.
Sad news, isn't it? Just 75.
It is 75 years old. Former policeman Jeff, best known, I think, probably as world's strongest man. Athletes and athletics fans, would you not sure?
I don't know.
You see him more as the shot putter?
I do see him as the shot putter.
Two-time Commonwealth champion Jeff. There he is on the right-hand side.
Very tall.
6'5".
Wow.
6'5", 24 stone, 26 stone. I was looking at back in the day. I don't know whether they still do this, but it was like, well, what would he eat? What would Jeff eat?
And a lot of calories.
Is it. So there was a few, So every day there to keep up his strength, 6 pounds of red meat, a dozen eggs.
Wow.
This is all in. I don't know whether this is all together.
Oh, might be.
2 loaves of bread. How about
2 loaves of bread?
2 loaves of bread. How about this? 2 tins of pilchards.
Oh.
Can you still get pilchards?
I don't know.
A pound of butter, 6 pints of milk. That's what kept him the world's strongest man.
Well, it's very expensive, all of that.
It was. So he won it in 83 and 85. He was on, like, every variety show.
Oh, every.
So whenever there was anything about strength, they would bring Jeff Capes out. So anybody growing up in the 70s and 80s, everybody knew who Jeff Capes was, and a Budgerigar fancier as well.
All-round nice fella.
He was. Gentle giant, you see.
Yeah.
That's with the Budgerigars. And then you see how strong he was. So Jeff Capes, a real sporting icon without any doubt. Back in the day, Jeff Capes passed away yesterday.
He's sadly missed. All right, Paul, thank you.
Pleasure.
See you a little bit later on.
Do stay with us. Emma Wolfe and Andrew Reborn are here next to go through the papers.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Earlier this week, Olympic swimmer Adam Peaty finally proposed to his girlfriend, because I've been waiting for this, the daughter of Gordon Ramsay, with a gorgeous yellow diamond ring.
Yeah, so the demand for coloured diamonds in the last 10 years has soared by, guess how much, 77% between 2010 and 2019. Joining us now to tell us more about some of the hottest trends in the diamond world is dealer to the stars, Neil Dutson. Good morning, Neil.
Morning, Ben.
And I've got one of your exemplary examples. Look at this bad boy.
So
What's this one?
That's a very rare Muso Colombian emerald. And it's alpine green translucent, so it's a really stunning
See if
colour.
we get a close-up.
So, yeah, so pretty impressive.
Can I be very crude and ask how much this is worth?
So value is £200,000.
How much, sorry?
£200,000. Now, the reason is its rarity. It's minor oiling. It's very, very, very pretty. The two diamonds on the side are D-colour, flawless diamonds, just to accentuate the setting.
Neil, how did you get into diamonds?
I studied diamonds in Antwerp. So Antwerp used to be the diamond capital of the world, really.
Yeah.
85% of the world's diamonds go through Antwerp, or used to. And now Dubai has taken over. And yeah, I just went to a school there. I learnt about diamonds, and I just didn't want to be seen off in the future.
Neil, I'm very concerned I'm going to drop 200 grand's worth of diamonds into my cup of tea, so can I give it back?
Absolutely.
But I can hold one if you like.
Oh, well, I've got
Neil.
a lovely one here.
Thank you.
So this is a fancy vivid yellow. It's 8 carats.
This is my dream ring, just so you know, for this hand. This would be
Is it big
amazing.
enough?
So what would I call this? A yellow?
So that's a natural fancy vivid yellow diamond. Value £300,000. So,
it fits
depends
like
where
a
you're
glove.
buying it from.
It
right?
fits like a glove, Neil.
Oh.
Maybe it's a sign. It's meant to be mine.
Definitely a sign, yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 7:45. Let's have a look at some front pages for you this morning.
And The Sun leads on an exclusive that disposable vapes are set to be banned across the UK from next June.
The Telegraph says senior aides to the Prime Minister are in that row with Donald Trump over claims the party broke US electoral law.
The Front of the Eye says former Justice Secretaries are banding together to warn cuts to next week's budget could be a disaster for victims of crime.
Sticking with the budget, the Mail says financial experts furious over rumours the Chancellor could introduce tax on private sector employers' pension contributions.
And the FT reports that Goldman Sachs and Apple have been fined $89 million over credit card issues.
Oh dear. Right, let's talk to lawyer Andrew Eborn and the writer Emma Wolfe. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you both. Emma, let's start with this. It's in the Times.
Yeah.
This is... I mean, I've seen it reported over the last sort of month or so. It's the most horrific rape trial in France, which just beggars belief.
Yeah, and this woman now in her early 70s, Gisèle Pellicot, who has been talking and who insisted on having this terrible rape trial. She waived her right to anonymity. She insisted on having the rape trial as a public trial. Has been speaking about her ex-husband, who seems to have been crushing up sedatives and sleeping pills and invited over 50 men to rape her.
While she was unconscious.
While she was unconscious. And just the woman's courage. I mean, women all over France, women all over the world, victims all over the world have been amazed at her courage, how she's spoken out about this. She has faced she has faced people in court. She faced her husband in court. She says, I'm a woman who is totally destroyed and I don't know how I'm going to rebuild myself. But she hasn't given up.
But
she wants to change. She wants to change the shame that people feel around accusing people of rape.
But what is with her? I mean, reading the piece, when she talks about the fact that her husband was someone she adored, who...
They were married for 50 years, happily married.
She thought doted on her and adored her, and then he was doing all of this.
He was doing all of this, and that's part of the thing about changing this narrative. Many of the wives and girlfriends of some of the people who raped her were saying, but I didn't think my partner would ever do that. And I think this is part of her sort of mission, is to change the narrative around rape culture and to end the shame and the stigma that people feel from coming forward. I think she's an incredibly courageous woman.
She absolutely is. And the fact that she wants to basically waive her anonymity is the point. And the powerful word she said, it's not for us to have shame, it's for them. And that's working on that sort of basis.
It is worth pointing out that some of the men involved in this trial are denying the claims against him because they thought she was a willing participant, but her husband has admitted his part in this. So...
And the French media have been described these men as Joe Blogs men, because that is what is so frightening about all of this. I mean,
and they were sort of recruited online. The husband said, you know, you can come and do this. Absolutely.
It is appalling. Whilst the husband's admitted, you're absolutely right. We need to... Those who are denying it needs to go through the fair process, and there shouldn't be trial in the media. But for her to speak out, when clearly the husband's admitted doing this, very, very brave of her to do it. And as you say, there's no shame on her. The shame is for them.
And also, as an older woman, I think it's incredibly powerful what she's saying. It's somehow, as a woman, I don't know whether you agree, Ellie, but there's something very, very even more dignified about this woman coming out. I mean, you know, these rapes took place in their own home. Many of them took place in their home in Provence. And there was this woman who didn't even realise this was happening, and people coming into her home where she lived with her husband for more than 50 years.
Yeah, it's just an absolutely horrific story, isn't it? I think one thing that's really haunting, listening to her yesterday, was saying that she's not even sure she's going to live long enough to unpack exactly what happened to her as a woman in her 70s. I mean, how can you ever?
Andrew, can we have a look at this?
Yes.
In the Daily Mail, the Chancellor, it's claimed, we don't know, we won't know until Wednesday, but there's this apparent raid on private sector.
Yes.
Not public sector, just private.
Extraordinary. So what happened? And again, they're drip feeding the story. This is the way they tend to do it before budgets come out. They drip feed stories to see what the reaction might be. Nobody knows is the short answer yet until it's declared. But what they're sort of saying is that exactly, experts blast the Chancellor's plan to impose national insurance on employers' pension contribution, but not for those in the public sector. And what rings in your ears is that we're not going to raise taxes on the ordinary working man. Well, what's that? What they really were hinting at is that weasel words. It's going to turn around on employers, and probably going to be national insurance on that. They're going to start raiding pensions. They're going to start looking at, obviously, things like savings and things like shares and so on and so forth. But that's what they're turning around and saying, is that it will be on the other side, on private enterprise, but not on the public side. You're right to point out, however, we don't know yet, and this could just be a story that's being fed yet another story, and where they dip their toe in the water to see what the temperature might be.
But doesn't something like this hinder economic growth?
Of course it
because
does.
Small businesses would then be more reluctant to hire anybody.
And the majority of businesses in this country, what we rely upon for small growth, for economic growth, is small business, small and medium enterprise.
Absolutely right.
And I think it may be the dipping a toe in the water. It seems a bit late in the day to be doing this.
Yes.
It may be the kind of, putting the worst scenarios out there, drip feeding the worst scenarios so that it feels a bit better. But one thing's for sure, this budget next Wednesday is going to be extremely painful.
But actually,
a lot of people are dreading this. And it does feel like an attack on regular working people who are trying to run businesses.
It's weasel words, as I say. But as she is dipping her toe in the water on that sort of basis, what should she do, I guess, is the question.
Emma, let's stay on the theme of the budget, shall we? And look at the eye. And this is talking about budget cuts being a disaster for victims of crime.
Yeah, this is about the justice, the budget for justice. Unlike health and education and defence, the justice budget is actually not protected. And it's worth around, the Ministry of Justice budget last year was 13.2 billion. So it's a pretty, it's a pretty sizable chunk of money. It covers things like prisons and courts and probation, youth custody, legal aid, things like that. But we've got a real crisis. This is what Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, has been saying. We need the money. She's apparently gone over the head of Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, and is appealing directly to the Prime Minister. She's saying, please, 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 don't cut our budget. We've got a huge backlog in the courts, a massive, an alarming backlog, not only from COVID, but just from chronic underfunding, inefficiency, whatever it is. We've got 75,000 cases still waiting to be heard, and that's in Crown Courts alone.
Yes.
Now, people are having their trials set for 2027. So trials are being set for 3 years hence. And what Shabana Mahmood and also previous Justice Secretaries are saying is this is failing the victims of crime. This is failing. You know, this is failing our entire
and the justice system is creaking at the moment, which is why they're letting people out early. We can't accommodate people in the system. It needs to be far more efficient. Justice needs to be done and also be seen to be done. And that's the reality. You start cutting this down and cutting down court time, which is part of the problem. It means that justice is not being done. But also, this is going back to the two-tier care thing. Certain crimes, in inverted commas, are being accelerated, where others are being sort of pushed back further down the line.
How do you tackle that? I mean, because
AI is one way, and they're using that. And seriously, is what they're doing in certain countries. They're using AI to make things more efficient, because the whole thing about law, it should be a science, not an art. So you're turning around and saying that everybody should get the same sentence. You can process a lot of things on that sort of basis. So it's dealing with admin.
Hold on, law being a science, not an art.
That's so difficult. It's such a
What about the
human
spirit
thing.
of the law versus the letter of the law? And you've got 10 seconds.
What about
Yeah, 10 seconds. I'll tell you, the answer is the Sentencing Council, which is exactly that. It is a science. It's supposed to be a formula for sentencing people. AI can help.
OK. Andrew, Emma, thank you both very much indeed.
Let's have a look at the weather now with Alex Deacon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's a fine autumn day out there, dry and bright, and some of us seeing some good spells of sunshine, but it will be quite windy, especially in western areas, those winds continuing to strengthen around western coasts. As I said, for many, it'll be dry and bright, quite a lot of sunshine across East Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down towards Kent. There'll be some sunshine elsewhere as well, but there will generally be more clouds in the west, but even here, some blue sky coming through at times. Those winds are coming up from the south, so wafting up quite mild air, so particularly in the sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens in and around the London area. Should be a fine day on the Murray Firth with those southerly winds bringing fine conditions here, but in the far northwest there will be a weather front that's likely to bring cloud and some rain at times through the day across the Western Isles, that trickling towards the west coast come evening time. We'll also see some of that rain just creeping towards County Fermanagh, but again, most of the day, much of Northern Ireland dry and cloudy. North Wales seeing some breaks in the cloud, but the cloud thickening across the southwest, and here just a small chance of one or two late showers. Increasingly through this evening, though, the threat of more showery rain coming up across southwest England, into South Wales and across Northern Ireland. Could be quite heavy in places as this rain band spreads further north as we go through the night. Much of the east and most of Scotland will stay dry overnight, clearer skies, allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures across the far northeast, but for most another pretty mild night with double digits to start Friday. We are going to start with a lot of cloud, and we will see some outbreaks of rain. Some uncertainty about how quickly this band of rain progresses tomorrow, but there could be some heavy showers around, particularly Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, and eventually creeping up into Northern England. But brighter skies should follow down to the south and west, and again, much of Scotland dry. And again, for most of us, temperatures in the mid-teens. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays of up to an hour to Stena Line sailings between Cairn Ryan and Belfast. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, the westbound exit at junction 26 at Jane Bar is partly blocked. It's taking nearly half an hour in queues from junction 28 at Tingley, and the outside lanes closed eastbound for emergency repairs at junction 25 at Brighouse, taking 20 minutes from junction 23 at Huddersfield. In Powys, the A470 remains closed each way between Glentoymin and Carlow for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth. On the M1 from Leicestershire into Northamptonshire, two lanes are closed southbound for emergency repairs at junction 19. The M6 A14 Catthorpe interchange queues from junction 20 at Lutterworth and coming down the M6 towards there. And the M4 in Berkshire is closed westbound at junction 5 at Langley after a van overturned. Diversions are often back on by the slip roads with queues from the M25.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Donald Trump doubles down on his row with Labour.
Starmer's new Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, raises eyebrows as Trump accuses him of anti-American election interference.
Well, there's less than a fortnight until the US election, so could Starmer live to regret making an enemy of Trump?
The Prime Minister lands in Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting as he shrugs off calls for slavery reparations.
Well, the King and Queen are there as well. Their royal tour is delighting Samoan fans.
A woman is arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after 3 elderly people die in a Swanage care home.
Disposable vapes are set to be banned next summer. The government's accused of nanny state nagging.
The nation unites to pay tribute to our armed forces as the Royal British Legion's annual Poppy Appeal gets underway.
And it's revealed a majority of teenagers are foregoing work experience. So we're debating this hour whether the rise of working from home is killing off student opportunities.
And sport this morning in the Champions League, wins for Manchester City and Liverpool, while Celtic get an excellent draw away at Atalanta. In cricket, the decider in Rawalpindi has begun with England winning the toss, but struggling in bat against Pakistan. They're 5 wickets down already. And how much would you pay for a history-making baseball?
Quite windy in the west today, but most places looking dry and bright, with some spots having some autumn sunshine. Will it last into Friday? Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I'm intrigued, Mr. Coyte, by this baseball and sporting memorabilia.
Yeah.
Because people do pay a lot of money.
Huge amount of money. So
bits and bobs, don't they?
In baseball, if you manage to hit, if it's an important shot, so for example, this one is, and I'll tell you about it a bit later, but if it's a very important historical shot and the ball goes out, because in baseball, if you catch the ball, you get to keep it. In football, if the ball goes out, you got to throw it back. So they get to catch the ball. It can sometimes be worth millions, literally millions. So when you get a kid and then you often see someone else trying to do it, you know, it's like, well, I'm sorry, but they are worth millions. And this is the case with this this baseball that I'll tell you about later.
Yeah.
It's worth remembering if you're ever at baseball.
It's worth catching,
Absolutely.
isn't it, to be honest?
Of course it is, yeah. Huge business.
Right, let's talk about sort of cross-Atlantic relations, should we? Because the row between Labour and Donald Trump has gained momentum overnight. Senior aides to the Prime Minister being accused of breaking US electoral law because they have been allegedly advising the Kamala Harris campaign.
Well, it's been reported that 2 of the party's most senior officials were given VIP access to the Democratic Party convention back in the summer.
And the new Downing Street Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, the fellow who took over from Sue Gray, was also there, so we're told.
Former President Donald Trump's lawyers have alleged in a lawsuit this week that the party's actions amount to illegal foreign interference. So we're asking this morning, could this impact the special relationship between us and the United States?
And let's talk to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Morning, Olivia. Are we dipping our fingers? Are we interfering in the US election?
Well, I'm sure the lawyers will give us a clear answer on that. This all started because of a LinkedIn post by Sophia Patel, Labour's head of operations, in which she said that she was coordinating a trip to the US for 100 or so Labour activists and staffers to campaign for the election. She said that there were 10 spots left and that the Labour Party would sort activist accommodation while they were out there. Now, that post drew lots and lots of interest on both sides of the Atlantic, and eventually Sophia Patel deleted her LinkedIn post and deleted her LinkedIn account altogether. But the damage was already done. The Trump campaign are furious about this post and say that the fact that Sophia Patel was giving away spots on this tour suggests that it's not true what Keir Starmer was saying, that all of these activists were working in their own time, organising themselves, etc. The Trump campaign suggests that this was a concerted effort on behalf of the Labour Party. Now, this row has deepened even further because Morgan McSweeney has been drawn into it. He is the new Downing Street Chief of Staff, and he was over at a Democratic convention back in July. He was there with Matthew Doyle, who's Keir Starmer's head of press. Now, Matthew Doyle was there. His ticket was paid for by a progressive think tank linked to the Clintons. But Morgan McSweeney, his ticket there was paid for by the Labour Party, suggesting that he was there on official business. Now, the Trump campaign say that these two men were advising the Harris campaign, which would amount to electoral interference. But Matthew Doyle and Morgan McSweeney claim that they were only there to observe proceedings. It's going to be really, really interesting to see where the Federal Commission comes down on this issue. But in the meantime, it is certainly very, very damaging for the relationship between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. Over the last 6 months or so, Keir Starmer has made a really concerted effort to try and show that if there were to be another Donald Trump presidency, he would be very, very willing to work with the Republican president, etc. But that's all a little bit undermined by what happened before. When he was in opposition, Keir Starmer said that it would be not the desired result of the US election if Donald Trump were to be elected as president. So that relationship was already a bit frayed, and today it's looking, well, more frayed than ever.
OK, Olivia, thanks very much indeed. Well, a Labour Party spokesperson said it's common practice for campaigners of all political persuasions from around the world to volunteer in US elections. Where Labour activists take part, they do so at their own expense in accordance with the laws and rules.
Now, a 60-year-old woman has been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after 3 people were found dead at a care home in Swanage.
Police confirm the deaths are being treated as unexplained, but carbon monoxide poisoning is currently the leading theory.
Let's speak now to GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. And such a shocking story here, Mark. What do we know this morning?
Well, it was about 5:20 yesterday morning when the emergency services, the ambulance service to begin with, got that call to go to the Gainsborough residential care home in Swanage with reports that several of the residents were unresponsive. Of course, when they arrived, they found 3 victims who succumbed to whatever the noxious substance was, and it's believed, as she said, to be carbon monoxide. 7 others were taken to hospital for treatment, and about 40 other residents in the care home had to be taken to a local church initially and then onward to other accommodation, because while this care home is still a crime scene, it may be a day or two before those residents can get back in to that location. And then last night we got the news that a woman, a 60-year-old woman, was arrested by Dorset police on suspicion of manslaughter, possible negligence charges. That will be ascertained going forward. But of course, we know as far as carbon monoxide is concerned, it is the silent killer. Most homes now, thankfully, have carbon monoxide alarms in their homes, as the law of the land, and a care home absolutely would have that kind of alarm system throughout as well. So quite what went wrong here, we don't know. But top of the sort of theory list for the police is that these 3 deaths were the result of carbon monoxide poisoning.
OK, Mark White, thank you very much indeed.
Now, as you can probably see, if you've got good eyesight in my case, we've got our poppies on this morning. That's because it is that time of the year again, and today the Armed Forces community launching the Royal British Legion's annual Poppy Appeal.
Well, joining us now is GB News national reporter Charlie Peters from HMS President Military Base in East London. Good to see you this morning. Charlie, what's happening there today?
Well, good morning, Stephen and Ellie. Yes, behind me we have a mindfulness session going on where soldiers from all three services are stretching and reflecting to achieve mental clarity and to focus on their mental wellness. And this comes as the Royal British Legion is launching their annual Poppy Appeal today. And in this time, they're talking about mental scars. And I'm very happy to say that I'm joined this morning by Tony Routledge, who joins me here. Tony, you're a veteran from the Iraq War. You deployed to Iraq in 2004. What was that experience like for you?
The actual experience itself for going out there was, it wasn't that bad. I'd been in the army for quite a while and that. It was just the uncertainty of things. At that time, you know, you weren't sure about what was going to happen with you or where it was going to happen or anything like that. But in general, it was quite a good tour.
Yeah. And you left the army in 2010, but you'd had some physical injuries, which the army fixed. But this year we're talking about mental scars. How has the Royal British Legion helped you with your mental health?
They've helped tremendously. They've helped put my life back together and give me so much time with my kids and my grandkids and that, which I wouldn't have had if they hadn't stepped in and helped.
Yeah. And the whole time that you've been supported by the RBL, they've been supporting you in what sort of way?
Well, basically, I went through 5 years of just locking myself into the house, not looking after myself. I lost most of my teeth, and I know that they didn't have a remit for helping out with dental work. But Jennifer, the coordinator, she was right on my side, and she knew that if I got my teeth fixed, I'd be able to get out more, you know, do more things. I'd be more confident, and that was just from one little thing like that, and it's been great.
Last year, the Poppy Appeal raised over £51 million to support serving personnel and veterans all around the world. Do you think the public are aware just how much the Legion does for our service personnel?
No, I don't think they're aware of everything that they do. You know, obviously people buy the poppies and that, and they think of the serving soldiers or, you know, ex-soldiers and that. But there's lots of families involved as well. You know, ex-military families who've maybe fallen on hard times or their breadwinner's been killed or anything like that. And then there's the old age pensioners from the forces and the dependents and that. And you know, they do so much for a wide variety of people.
And Tony, when you see the poppy, when you see people wearing it, as we'll start to see today for the upcoming weeks ahead of Remembrance Sunday and Armistice Day, what feelings do you get when you see that poppy? What does it remind you of?
I get good feelings and bad feelings, I must admit. The concept of the poppy is obviously remembrance of the service personnel that have been killed over the years serving and that. But I like to look at it as celebrating their life. You know, instead of looking on the dark side, I like to think that, well, if you're wearing the poppy, you're celebrating the people who've stood up for you.
Tony Routledge, thank you very much for joining me this morning. And as the Poppy Appeal continues its launch this morning, we'll hear from more voices across the service community. The Royal British Legion is focusing on those mental scars. And as you've just heard from Tony, it's about remembering those who've served and who've fallen for our freedom. But also, it's about supporting those who are still fighting with any mental and physical frailties they've had as a consequence of their service.
Well said, Charlie Peters. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, if you want to donate, then you can do so. Of course, if you see people out and about collecting, well, that's the way we traditionally do it. But you can, of course, do it online on the Royal British Legion's website. It's britishlegion.org.uk.
Now, you know, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. So every day we're going to be running our poll of the day. And today we're asking, do you think that young people take pride in wearing the poppy?
Well, we'll bring you the results live throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned in for that. And we'll get the final result in Martin Daubney's show this afternoon. If you want to take part and have a look at all the latest polls, news and find out how to vote, go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, the King and Queen have embarked on a state visit to Samoa, braving the heat and humidity to strengthen ties and enjoy the culture of the South Pacific island.
Yes, their first visit together to the small country, currently hosting the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM, as we conveniently call it.
I liked it when you said that, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is there.
Well, it's incredibly rare for a senior member of the royal family to visit the island of Samoa. In fact, the last time was in the 1970s when it was the late Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip visiting on the royal yacht Britannia. This time, of course, it is the King and Queen, and there is intense heat and humidity here in the South Pacific, so they're not wearing their traditional suit and tie or dress for the Queen. The King has a bespoke outfit made for him by a Savile Row tailor. Apart from the trim, which has been designed by the Samoan School of the Arts, Camilla is wearing a Anna Valentine tunic. And earlier today, the King and Queen visited a local village in the north of the island, Moata. We were there too, and you'd be mistaken that it was actually Great Britain because it was pouring down with rain and there were Union flags absolutely everywhere. But they were there for a very special reason, a traditional ceremony which happens very rarely. Take a look. A tiny village hall in a very remote part of the world decked out with the British flag, welcoming two visitors who are recognised by billions. Very shortly, His Majesty the King is going to have a High Chief title bestowed upon him, and these local school children have all come to witness the proclamation. Kalofa! Village life is central to the Samoan way, with a focus on family, church and duty, very similar to the royal family's ways. Village Chief Furatai explains why they're granting special status to His Majesty.
You just can't have a cup of tea with the king. We need to give him a welcoming ceremony in our cultural context, and that's what we're doing, you know. We say, welcome, Your Majesty, but as well, we confer on you this title so that you can take back to Great Britain and remember our village, also Samoa.
The King mingled with villagers before rushing off to another engagement, but the Queen stayed behind, focusing on one of her passions, children's literacy. She watched how traditional storytelling techniques using the Bible help the children learn to read. Members of the local church presented Queen Camilla with gifts, showing their appreciation for her visit. Afterwards, I caught up with some of the students about what it means for them.
Great news for our village. Today has ended well. It was really nice meeting the Queen and the King.
We're very excited for this opportunity. We're so overwhelmed and thankful for Queen Camilla. It's a pleasure for us to meet the Queen and the King of Great Britain.
Tomorrow, the King's focus is on the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, a family of 56 independent nations, with King Charles as the symbolic head. Well, afterwards, the King came here to the Sheraton Hotel in Apia, which is the capital city, for the Commonwealth Business Forum, and also to get a briefing on his Sustainable Markets Initiative. That's something he set up in 2020, trying to encourage the private sector to get involved with sustainability and combat climate change with targets. So he received a briefing on that, learnt about how the different 56 Commonwealth nations are working together to create perhaps a stronger trade partnerships or trading partnerships in the face of the modern world. And tomorrow, the Commonwealth is very much the theme here. The King, of course, is the head of the Commonwealth. It is the first time he has presided over these conferences as its head. He deputised for his mother on behalf of his mother in 2022. But it is all go for the King. He's already done a 6-day tour of Australia. He is 75 years old, almost 76. He has cancer, but he still appears to be going strong.
Oh, they've really enjoyed this tour, I think you can tell.
Yeah,
the King,
it looks like.
especially in his element when he's talking to people.
This is really nice. Really nice. Good to see them out there on the world stage, having an impact.
And good to see Cameron Walker as well, because he texted me yesterday. Here's some behind-the-scenes detail for you. Texted me saying he's very worried about the humidity in his hair. Because he doesn't think his hair looks very good, but I think he looks wonderful.
Is that his main concern?
He was worried about it yesterday, but he looks great. Cameron, if you're listening, you look great. Samoa suits you.
Well, that fake hair, the plastic hair, does frizz in the heat. That's the problem.
It expands.
Right, it's 19 minutes past 8. Let's have a look at some of the other stories heading into the newsroom today.
And the sale of single-use vapes is set to be banned next summer in a new crackdown from the government. Legislation from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs has given businesses a deadline to sell remaining stock before it becomes legal.
It's understood a Kurdish rebel group is likely to be behind the deadly terror attack on a defence and aerospace company in Turkey. 5 people have been killed, 22 injured. Turkey's Interior Minister confirmed 2 of the suspects were, in their words, neutralised during the attack.
The former World's Strongest Man winner and British shot putter Jeff Capes has died at the age of 75. He set the record for the furthest shot put thrown by a British man with a distance of 21.68 metres back in 1980.
All right, let's get a check on the weather prospects for you today with Alex Deakin.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's a fine autumn day out there, dry and bright, and some of us seeing some good spells of sunshine, but it will be quite windy, especially in western areas, those winds continuing to strengthen around western coasts. As I said, for many, it'll be dry and bright, quite a lot of sunshine across East Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down towards Kent. There'll be some sunshine elsewhere as well, but there will generally be more clouds in the west, but even here, some blue sky coming through at times. Those winds are coming up from the south, so wafting up quite mild air, so particularly in the sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens in and around the London area. Should be a fine day on the Murray Firth with those southerly winds bringing fine conditions here, but in the far northwest there will be a weather front that's likely to bring cloud and some rain at times through the day across the Western Isles, that trickling towards the west coast come evening time. We'll also see some of that rain just creeping towards County Fermanagh, but again, most of the day, much of Northern Ireland dry and cloudy. North Wales seeing some breaks in the cloud, but the cloud thickening across the southwest, and here just a small chance of 1 or 2 late showers. Increasingly through this evening, though, the threat of more showery rain coming up across southwest England, into South Wales and across Northern Ireland. Could be quite heavy in places as this rain band spreads further north as we go through the night. Much of the east and most of Scotland will stay dry overnight, clearer skies, allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures across the far northeast, but for most another pretty mild night with double digits to start Friday. We are going to start with a lot of cloud, and we will see some outbreaks of rain. Some uncertainty about how quickly this band of rain progresses tomorrow, but there could be some heavy showers around, particularly Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, and eventually creeping up into Northern England. But brighter skies should follow down to the south and west, and again, much of Scotland dry. And again, for most of us, temperatures in the mid-teens. Bye for now.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now, and the clock is ticking. You've got just over 24 hours.
Yes, don't miss out on your chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how.
This is...
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, do stay with us. Still to come is the rise of work from home leading to fewer opportunities for young people. We're going to be debating that next.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Oedipus is back in the theatre, as Stefan Kyriazis can tell me. Stefan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
A good Oedipus or a bad one?
It's a great one. It's divided the critics a little bit. So some would prefer more kind of truth to the original text, perhaps a little bit more sense of the kind of epic Greek tragedy. I mean, this is Sophocles. It's 2,500 years old, and it's still one of the best, literally, no pun, the mother of all tragedies. It's just absolutely staggering. You like that?
I did. Where and with whom?
So this one is on at the Wyndham Theatre until January the 4th. The exciting thing is Mark Strong as Oedipus, Leslie Manville as his wife, Jocasta, and it's been reframed, you'll see from the pictures, as a modern political thriller. So he is waiting for election results, general election results, you will remember. There's a clock ticking down in the background. They're at campaign HQ. They're waiting for it to click down to 0. We increasingly know that when it hits 0, terrible truths are coming. So it's operating on 2 levels. He's obsessed with the truth. He says very famously, I am me. He's so proud of his sense of who he is. And of course, that's all going to be horrendously ripped away. Mark Strong is wonderful. And then when we get to the very end and the horrific final reveal, I forgot. I was so gripped in the political thriller and everything else, I actually swore under my breath in the theatre, Michael, because I just had been so engrossed, and they play very well at other mysteries going on and a family drama, that when my penny dropped, I literally was devastated, and they do it. Even the critics that haven't loved this reframing admit, the two of them, and especially at the end, it's searingly agonising. It's glorious.
2,500 years later,
yeah,
it's still absolutely visceral.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to breakfast. It's 8:27. Now, did you know fewer teens than ever are doing work experience?
I did not know that.
Well, the numbers have been sharply dropping since the pandemic, apparently.
Well, Labour has a plan, apparently, to guarantee work experience to every student. So is that just going to be too ambitious now? Some say they should start by curbing work-from-home culture. That means, apparently, fewer placements are available.
So we're asking this morning, has working from home killed opportunities for young people? Well, let's speak now to Charlie Mullins, who's the founder of Pimlico Plumbers, and entrepreneur Oliver Hodgson. Really good to see you both this morning. Charlie, let's start with you. Has working from home and the culture surrounding working from home killed work experience, do you think?
Undoubtedly. Many companies now are not getting youngsters in for the work experience because of the fact they don't have the staff in. So if they're only in 2 days a week, they're not going to get in the youngsters. They've got no one to train them. So it's killed it totally. And if you think it's bad now, probably 4 or 5 years from now, it'll be absolutely ridiculous. This working from home, I said from day one, is going to kill youngsters' futures, youngsters' careers, and getting people into the workplace. So now the damage is showing through, unfortunately. COVID finished a couple of years ago. The working from home should have stopped and get people back into the workplace.
I mean, Oliver, you have to say it's difficult to see how people in a work-from-home environment can do any sort of on-the-job training at all.
Yeah, good morning. Look, as Charlie probably knows, because we had a very similar debate a couple of weeks ago, I'm actually 21 and I'm very pro the office, right? But I spent the first 12 to 18 months of my career working from home, and that wasn't really through choice. That was because of coronavirus in 2020 and 2021. It's really interesting, the work experience piece, actually, because we ran an internship program in the summer here. We had 5 people in the office in person and they really thrived, but we did have a couple of people who joined remotely because of their own reasons. positions, right, and where they were. I think it's a bit more nuanced than that as well, because I've got clients who have completely remote teams. Now, I don't. I have an office and our team are based in here, but our clients who do, they're able to offer work experience opportunities digitally with fantastic technology to people across the world, right? So they have people in their team who are working from all sorts of different continents, which is obviously fantastic. But I agree with Charlie, right? You cannot knock in-person engagement. You cannot knock being in the office. I remember my first work placement, and it was actually with my local MP down in the House of Commons when I was 15, so the equivalent of kind of being in year 10 in secondary school, and that was shortly before I dropped out of school, and that really for me reaffirmed the industry that I wanted to go in. So I ended up working in media and PR, and that's what I done with the MP, and being there surrounded by people who have been there and done it, got the T-shirt, was really powerful for me. So I kind of sit on the fence a little bit with this argument. I'm definitely
can't really sit on the fence on this, because it's either working from home is working for youngsters, or it's not working for youngsters. Clearly, it's not. We have a new company called We Fix London going, and we will take on youngsters with work experience, but we will not allow, or I say we will not allow anyone to work from home. It's just not the way to run a business. And even the government now have woken up and they've told their worker or the civil servants they've got to spend 60% of their working time in the office. And it's the only way to get the experience and the training. We all learn from somebody, but you ain't going to learn reading out of a book.
Charlie, isn't it? I mean, it's Oliver makes a good point, doesn't he? When he said, he wants to be in the office, he wants people in the office, but on some occasions it doesn't work. So
what work?
Well, if it's say he's got people from who for whatever reason couldn't get to the office, or people who are dipping in from a long way away, as you are now. So it doesn't. Don't we need to approach this on several levels rather than just saying, well, it's either one or the other?
Well, I'm saying you cannot get work experience sitting on a laptop. You need to be mixing with people. You need to be learning off of people. You need to sort of learn how to communicate. You need how to, travel into work. They're all life experiences, and you're not going to learn them sitting at home on a laptop. It's just not the way it's done. I mean, quite clearly, it's affecting the youngsters now. More and more of them are out of work, and unfortunately, more of them now are never going to get a job because they're staying at home and they're not taking up the traditional way of going out and getting to work. And this is, a lot to do with parents, a lot to do with all the people that want to work from home. And for some people, it works. Does it work for youngsters? The answer is clearly no. And I agree with Oliver. He's a great guy. He's got himself up and running in business, and he's got a lot of motivation. But there's no substitute for experience. You need to go into the workplace to learn and pick up ideas and get all life skills. I mean, that's what we've always done. It's very traditional. Unfortunately, working culture now is just not prepared to do it.
Oliver, final question to you, perhaps a cynical one. Do you think that some businesses are seizing on the work from home culture to say that they don't offer work experience placements anymore because it's just too much responsibility, it's too much faff to try and find something for people to do for a week or two?
I guess it's not that much of a faff to try and find something for people to do, but I will admit, it's a job facilitating a number of students at any company. Your safeguarding and your health and safety, etc. That has to go into planning that week, that month, that summer that they're with you. Yes, it can be resource heavy, but what we do is we use digital technology to really field people down who want to come here and make sure that they're actually relevant that they have interest relevant to what we do, and therefore we can actually put them on real projects, which is really powerful. But just back to what Charlie said, I do kind of think that this isn't a one size fits all, as Stephen alluded to, right? There's so many different industries nowadays which are completely and wholly on a laptop, and I think for them it's a different ball game to a trade firm, a plumbing firm, or somewhere where you really need to be with your team, right? I do think it's not a one size fits all kind of, you're either not working from home or you are. I think a nuanced approach and very relevant to the different industries as well.
OK, there we must agree to disagree, gents, but really good to see you both this morning. Charlie, Oliver, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Do stay with us. Paul Coyte's going to be here next with all your sports news.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays of up to an hour to Centreline sailings between Cairnryan and Belfast on the M62 in West Yorkshire. The westbound exit at junction 26, the M606 at Chain Bar, is partly blocked with the queues taking over half an hour from junction 28 at Tingley. There's also a lane closed eastbound for repairs at junction 25 at Brighouse, taking 20 minutes from junction 23 at Huddersfield. Powys, the A470 remains closed each way between Glentoymin and Carno for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth. In Gloucestershire, the A40 is blocked eastbound by an accident at Churcham, causing delays. On the M1 from Leicestershire into Northamptonshire, 2 lanes are closed southbound for repairs at junction 19 for the M6, with queues from junction 20 at Lutterworth. And the M4 in Berkshire is closed westbound at junction 5 at Langley after a van overturned, with queues from the M25.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 8:37. Just want to bring you some breaking news this morning. It's in regard to 2 girls who were killed in a car collision in Wimbledon in southwest London. It was last year. You probably remember the incident. Anyway, the Metropolitan Police are reopening that investigation. They've said there's been a review since it happened. They've identified a number of lines of inquiry that require further examination, so it's all now going to be reopened. These 2 8-year-old girls died in this crash. The families have been updated with this development and will provide them with information as we go on. We believe this investigative work will address all questions raised by the families affected. So clearly there's been a lot of concern from the families of these 2 8-year-old girls, as you would understand with that, but this investigation has now been officially reopened.
Now at 8:38, it's time to go through all of the latest sports news. Paul Coit is here with us.
Should we start with that auction?
Oh, yes, the baseball.
Yes,
I keep meaning to do this. I keep running out of time. Shohei Ohtani is not a name that would probably be too familiar with us over here, but over in America, he's a superstar, Japanese baseball player, and known as the greatest. I mean, he pitches, and he's a batter, and he's unbelievable, and he's just the best. He's just, honestly, this guy is incredible. And he became the first player to score 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in a single season, and this is since baseball began, so in the major league. So this is huge. Now, the ball that he hit, his 50th home run with. So always, when a big occasion is about to happen, then someone will keep the ball and then they can make a lot of money. So anyway, it hits the ball, comes flying over, person catches it, and they've auctioned it because that's the most sensible thing to do. How much do you think? How much do you think? So this is a single
few
baseball.
grand, 10, 20,000.
10, 20,000. What about you, Ellie? How much would you pay for that baseball?
I'd add 0 to that. 100, 200,000.
You know what? If you'd actually agreed to, I feel like I'm doing fake or fortune.
Yeah.
If you'd actually said, I will pay £100,000 for that ball, and they sold it to you, you would be so much in profit because it's just been auctioned for 4.39 million.
No way.
Unbelievable. I mean, how on earth? It's just incredible. So it's £3.4 million, and this is the memorabilia market, and for things like this, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
That's frightening.
The actual ball, so it could have been any ball, but it just happened to be the one that he hit.
How did he know it's wrong? Has he
4.39
signed it or anything?
Well, no, because I guess it's on film. You see the person catch it, and then...
Do we know who bought it?
Well, there has been a little bit of an argument. I'm going to look into this a little because someone else has said, well, actually, it came to me and someone took it off of me. Because if, for example, you're standing there with a bunch of people and £4 million comes towards you, not that... You know what I'm saying? Everybody's going to go for it.
But it explains there's that footage.
And they're going to fight.
There's that footage which is always on YouTube and things of that little boy or little girl who catches a ball, and then this woman comes and grabs it off her.
I know. And you think that's terrible. Let the kid have it. But when
actually,
it's 4.4, well, what? Let's
nick it.
Would you?
The child.
So there's a child there, and so the ball's coming over. You know this is worth £3 million, £3 or £4 million.
I'm diving for it.
And the kid is going. You're going for the ball.
I'm diving.
Say, listen, I'm so sorry. I'll
give you $10.
I'll give you $10 to get yourself a lollipop. I'm going to keep the ball. But anyway, there it is, £4.3 million. Should mention Jeff Capes, shouldn't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Jeff Capes has passed away at the age of 75. A real legend, especially of me growing up, but I'm sure you as well.
Too, yeah.
A former policeman, record shot putter, still has the British record for shot put, which goes back to 1980. Appeared in 3 Olympics, 2 Commonwealth Games titles, but then went on to turn professional. And when I say turn professional, it's because back in the day then, if you were an Olympian, you were an amateur, and that's it, and you couldn't make any money off of it. So then entered World's Strongest Man, won it twice, 83 and 85. Huge as well. I mean, huge in every sense of the word. Huge in every sense of the word. And also the Highland Games as well.
It's a good old days when British athletes were 27 stone.
Yeah.
That's it.
And 6'5".
But you know what? For those sort of events, they're still big like that because that's where you need the power. But he was on everything. You know, he was on every variety show and also a budgerigar fancier as well.
See. Soft side.
I went to his house.
Can do it all.
Went to his house, yeah, and it was one of these. You know, you have these memories. You sort of remember bits and pieces. But I remember going into his house, going to the back, going to the aviary. Yeah. I don't even remember why I was there, but there was just all these budgerigars. So, and he was actually president of the British Budgerigar Foundation.
Really?
Yeah. So there we are. You're right. There's his soft side.
I remember
giant.
There's a great shot of him somewhere. I remember of him with his biceps out and the budgie side of his bicep.
Yeah. There's everything. There's always the budgie there somewhere. Yeah. So Jeff Capes, bless him, passed away yesterday.
Smash him, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. Nice that Jeff is being remembered so fondly, as it should be. As it should be.
Do stay with us. We're going to be going through the papers next.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We are now delighted to be joined by comedian and my beautiful friend, Francine Lewis, who's here to share with us her upcoming book, The Last Laugh, and an exciting competition in collaboration with none other than that mean Simon Cowell. Francine,
he's not so mean anymore.
Oh, is he not?
He's not. And do you know what?
He's having a child, is it maybe?
Definitely. It's really weird because I really liked Simon. He was nasty. I just found that, I don't know, quite sexy. Now he's way too nice. Way too nice.
That's what they say, isn't it? You get all the nice guys say, I never get any luck with women, and they always say I'm too nice.
Do you know what? The truth is, I've always thought Simon was lovely. He's such a nice guy. Like, when I was doing Britain's Got Talent, I was very, very excited, you know, to meet Simon again because it was the second time I'd actually met him. And I always thought he was such a charming, lovely man.
Of course, you are more recently well known for BGT and your impressions and whatnot.
Do you know what? I do watch a lot of reality TV, a lot of that sort of stuff.
What do you watch?
I love Towie. Whenever Love Island's on. Seriously, honeys, 100% definitely. You lot, you got to watch Essie. It's all about Towie. Love it, seriously. So I'm always doing, you know, whatever the new reality shows are.
The favourite is Katie Price, and we've got a video. I think we've got a selfie video of us doing.
Have we?
Yeah, we have. From
I'm showing
years ago.
Tatiana to Katie Price, which she does amazingly. Come on, Tatiana, let's...
No, I don't.
Tatiana!
Katie, there's a mixture between Katie Price and Tatiana.
What do you think? I love when people take me off. It shows what a big star I am.
It's the lick of the lips.
The People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, time for the papers at 8:46 with the lawyer Andrew Eborn and the journalist Emma Wolfe. Good morning.
Good morning.
Emma, can we have a quick word about UK clubs, because then we're going to have a look at our report.
Yeah, well, we know that the hospitality industry obviously has gone under huge sort of pressures, and lots of bars and clubs have been closing down.
Yes.
Having a terrible time, hit from all sides, really, after the pandemic and lockdown and everything. Ellie was talking about a report that you'd done in the early days after COVID.
Yeah, 2021, when the reopening of the clubs after COVID.
Wow. And the impact of all of that, of lockdown on the hospitality industry, but also changing culture. People staying at home more, people being addicted to their smartphones. She's starting to bang the drum.
And it's too expensive a night out now. It's costing
expensive for
a pint in London is crazy from what it used to be.
A round of drinks costing £40 rather than 10 or whatever. So I think, you know, as you say, you have a report on the hospitality industry, but UK clubs facing extinction, apparently.
I mean, it's thoroughly
so sad
depressing.
as well. It's so sad.
It is sad. It's part of youth. I can imagine nothing worse.
I don't. Yeah.
But it's part of growing up. Anyway, we sent Adam Cherry out clubbing in the name of journalism.
What are the problems the nighttime economy faces in London at the moment?
It's a loaded question, isn't it, these days? Well, plenty. Licensing, culture change, business rates, duty on VAT. I mean, there are many problems that we're facing. Promoters then became venues, and that sort of manifested itself. And then what we've seen in 20 years is the failed policy that was adopted, I mean, particularly by, I hate to say it, Westminster, and trying to clean up areas with the wrong intent, draconian licensing, and it just strangled. It was a sort of...
strangled the creativity. Yeah. There was, there's no opportunities in central London for young creatives anymore to make the next thing happen.
Do you guys like a night out in London?
Yeah, we do. It's good.
It's good. So, do you find, is it difficult after about 10 or 11 o'clock to get a drink and to have a good night out? Do you have to plan it a little bit more than you'd like, or is it quite easy?
It depends on the area you go to as well. Like, I'm surprised tonight it's quite quiet.
Catcalling is terrible, just feels unsafe. I wouldn't walk on my own in Camden.
Yeah, I had a bad experience in Aldgate about catcalling, but apart from that, I've never had a problem or anything on a night out.
I mean, there was a pub there, basically. And the reality is this, is that it's not just a knock-on effect for the clubs themselves, but it's like the entertainment industry. A lot of bands, a lot of musicians, that's where they need to start in this sort of basis. You're turning down those small clubs. Harvey Goldsmith is a neighbour, and we speak about these big venues. People like Taylor Swift are doing really, really well. But the smaller acts coming up, that's how they used to do it. They used to come through the clubs. If you get rid of the clubs, it's a knock-on effect for the whole industry. Very sad. But there are still some great places where you can do things. You can make a lot of fun out there. Soho is full of all sorts of exciting places, and we should shine a spotlight on the good stuff.
Right.
But I think if you're seeing central London that empty on a Wednesday, Thursday night, you know, what is the rest of the country like? Because we know that shops and, you know, clubs and pubs are closing down all over the country. It's not easy.
I think you're right to mention a cultural shift, though, because we do know that Gen Z, Gen Z, they don't drink.
They don't drink as much. Yes. There's also, I think, all sorts of relationship issues. It's, you know, this thing about, are you allowed to approach people? Are you allowed to talk to people? Are you allowed to make a move? All of the funny things that I remember from my teenage years and clubbing and going to pubs and things, you know, there's a lot more caution and kind of, you know, rules in place.
There's been a recent report.
It's a cultural shift.
Oh, let's talk about. Let's move on to something else because I'm fascinated by this. In the FT.
Yes.
Goldman Sachs.
Yes.
And Apple
fined 89 million. Small change for both of them. But the reality is this: they've got rules and regulations as opposed to how you handle complaints. So when there's a dispute about payments, you need to do it in an appropriate way. They didn't follow that appropriate way. So that's what they're looking at there. That's the fine. What's happening is that Goldman and Apple, they're all dabbling in different payment gateways and so on and so forth, because that's how you make your margins. But you have to comply with the rules and regulations where the customers are centric. And that's what you need to do. You need to make sure that happens and the relevant rules and regulations are followed. They didn't do it in this instance. So they basically, whenever there's a dispute, they have to follow a particular procedure, and they didn't in all of those instances.
They should know that, though, shouldn't they?
Well, this is the surprising thing. This is crazy, isn't it? You turn around, the reason history repeats itself is people don't learn the lessons from history. There are very clear rules and regulations in place as to what you have to do, and they didn't do that. But basically, they've made a push into financial services. Apple, 5 years ago, after that's what happened, it tried to make a push into these financial services. If you can control the whole ecosystem, so you do the payment gateway, you do the services and everything else, that's how you make your margin. But the rules are there to protect the consumer. Don't follow those at your own peril.
Yeah.
Emma, let's have a look at the Daily Mirror, shall we? And this is off the back of the Chris Cabba case. And now there's been a development, hasn't there, in protections for police firearms officers?
Yeah, well, this is the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has been saying that in the wake of the Chris Cabba hearing that we had on Monday, obviously Martin Blake was the firearms officer who was responsible, and he was cleared of the gang member's murder. But she's been talking about the protections that need to be put in place, or that will be put in place, that will be brought in, so that basically cops who are killing in the line of duty will not have their identity revealed, that they will have that anonymity. There will be a presumption of anonymity in court. Apparently there was £10,000 offered for the name and address of Martin Blake. So it's an extremely vulnerable position as a policeman, as a firearms officer, to be in.
It is awful naming people, but you're right about the 10,000. The price on the head was awful that people are reporting it, and I think this is terrible. You wonder why that's being reported so much. I won't comment any further. But also I think it's wrong for people to be named when they haven't gone through due process. Trial by the media is wrong in so many different ways. You understand in certain cases, in case there might be more victims come forward, but clearly where people's lives, it's not just the officer concerned, but the family as well, that's where it's wrong.
Yeah, I think the job of a firearm officer is horrific.
It's not enviable, and then you simply get a situation where people say, well, we won't carry firearms.
And apparently that's what they're doing. They're handing it back in now, apparently, as a result of these threats.
Well,
Either you want us to do our jobs or not, but...
We've only got a minute left.
Baked potatoes!
Oh, go on, baked potatoes.
Oh, go on, cheer us all up. Well, apparently office workers are so skint these days, 88% of them are changing from pricey food, shop-bought food, to the humble but very nutritious.
It's very good for you.
Potato, very, very good
for
you.
Just microwaving it in
They're
the
just
office.
having a baked potato. The favourite toppings are grated cheese still.
Yes.
But also instant noodles.
No, don't. There's too many carbs. Carb on carb is not good.
Well, a Marmite, I wouldn't eat it, but I can see.
Marmite on a baked potato.
But instant noodles on a baked potato, that is so wrong.
Baked beans and cheese.
Baked beans and cheese.
Butter and Marmite.
No.
On a bit.
Butter with a northern accent sounds a lot better. Butter.
That's really lovely.
Is that nice? But people put Marmite on spaghetti and things. I mean...
Oh, I like Marmite. It's really good with a meat sauce. Absolutely. It brings out the flavour, but not on a baked potato.
Don't give him any ideas now. You'll be going home and trying Marmite through spaghetti. That's tonight's dinner, isn't it?
I'd give it a whirl.
Baked potato is incredibly nutritious.
It is. It's cheap, isn't it?
It's cheap, it's nutritious.
Versatile.
Exactly.
Do lots with it.
Spud you like. There used to be a whole chain of those. I think they disappeared. So bring them back. That's what you need.
Bring them back.
The Spud Bros are making it trendy again.
Oh, well, there you go. Cheap and fun. That's what we like.
Hey.
Emma, Andrew, we are out
Thank
of
you.
time with you. Thank you very much indeed. Let's have a look at the weather now with Alex Deacon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's a fine autumn day out there, dry and bright, and some of us seeing some good spells of sunshine, but it will be quite windy, especially in western areas, those winds continuing to strengthen around western coasts. As I said, for many, it'll be dry and bright, quite a lot of sunshine across East Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down towards Kent. There'll be some sunshine elsewhere as well, but there will generally be more clouds in the west, but even here, some blue sky coming through at times. Those winds are coming up from the south, so wafting up quite mild air, so particularly in the sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens in and around the London area. Should be a fine day on the Murray Firth with those southerly winds bringing fine conditions here, but in the far northwest there will be a weather front that's likely to bring cloud and some rain at times through the day across the Western Isles, that trickling towards the west coast come evening time. We'll also see some of that rain just creeping towards County Fermanagh, but again, most of the day, much of Northern Ireland dry and cloudy. North Wales seeing some breaks in the cloud, but the cloud thickening across the southwest, and here just a small chance of one or two late showers. Increasingly through this evening, though, the threat of more showery rain coming up across southwest England, into South Wales and across Northern Ireland. Could be quite heavy in places as this rain band spreads further north as we go through the night. Much of the east and most of Scotland will stay dry overnight, clearer skies, allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures across the far northeast, but for most another pretty mild night with double digits to start Friday. We are going to start with a lot of cloud, and we will see some outbreaks of rain. Some uncertainty about how quickly this band of rain progresses tomorrow, but there could be some heavy showers around, particularly Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, and eventually creeping up into northern England. But brighter skies should follow down to the south and west, and again, much of Scotland dry. And again, for most of us, temperatures in the mid-teens. Bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 towards Belfast, the entry slip road's partly blocked by a breakdown at junction 3 at Dunmurray. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, the westbound exit at junction 26 for the M606 at Chain Bar is partly blocked. It's taking around 40 minutes in queues from junction 28 at Tindley, and the outside lanes closed eastbound for emergency repairs at junction 25 at Brighouse, taking 20 minutes in queues from junction 23 at Huddersfield. In Lincolnshire, the A17 is blocked eastbound by an accident towards the A16 at the Sutterton roundabout, causing queues. In Powys, the A470 remains closed each way between Glantyman and Carno for an investigation. On the M1 from Leicestershire into Northamptonshire, there's a lane closed southbound for emergency repairs at junction 19 for the M6, with queues from junction 20 at Lutterworth. And in Gloucestershire, the A40 is closed each way at Churcham after an accident causing queues.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is The Luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference
It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. Donald Trump doubles down on his row with Labour.
Yes, Starmer's new Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, raises eyebrows as Trump accuses him of anti-American election interference.
Well, less than 2 weeks until the US election. Could Starmer live to regret making an enemy of Trump?
The Prime Minister lands in Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting as he shrugs off calls for slavery reparations.
Well, the King and Queen are there and they're delighting Samoan fans with their royal tour.
A woman is arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after 3 elderly people die in a Swanage care home.
Disposable vapes will be banned next summer as the government's accused of nanny state nagging.
The nation unites to pay tribute to our armed forces as the Royal British Legion's annual Poppy Appeal gets underway.
Quite windy in the west today, but most places looking dry and bright with some spots having some autumn sunshine. Will it last into Friday? Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
I'm a bit torn this morning.
Oh, what?
Well, I'm a bit torn because Poppy Appeal is underway.
Yeah.
And I've had quite a few people messaging and saying, but you're not wearing a poppy.
He is.
Well, I am wearing a poppy, and it's one that I bought from the Royal British Legion's website. But
you can't see it.
It's quite small.
You need a microscope to see it.
So
I think you might have to go old school.
I'm a bit torn because it's lovely. It's a really nice row of 5 poppies, but they are quite small, and if I look like I'm not wearing a poppy, what am I to do?
Defeats the purpose of spending all that money, doesn't it? You need to show off your poppy. I'd go old school, I think, for your telly appearances. I'd go paper and keep that for your coat.
Maybe that's the way forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me know what you think. gbnews.com/yoursay, because I do believe we should be seeing...
The paper ones are nice now. Look, they're really large. But I don't think you can move the...
You can't. It's all one piece, isn't it?
Oh, right. I just like the plastic ones. Maybe we're not allowed to say that anymore.
You're not allowed to say, no, plastic's bad now.
Those.
Plastic's bad. Well, it is a waste of plastic, to be fair.
Yeah, that is true.
So.
But if you can get out and buy poppy today, do, because the Poppy Appeal is being launched officially today by the Royal British Legion.
Certainly is, and we'll have live coverage of that coming up for you in the next couple of minutes.
Now, the row between the Labour government and Donald Trump has gained momentum overnight. Senior aides to the Prime Minister are being accused of breaking US electoral law by allegedly advising Kamala Harris's campaign.
Well, it's been reported that 2 of the party's most senior officials were given VIP access to the Democratic Party convention. That was back in the summer.
Well, the new Downing Street Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, who took over from Sue Gray, also attended, allegedly, on the Labour's party's dime.
Well, former President Trump's lawyers have alleged in a lawsuit this week that the party's actions amount to illegal foreign interference, which is pretty serious. And also, of course, then there's a potential, should he win, will it impact the special relationship between the UK and the US?
Well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. This is quite an awkward row, isn't it, Olivia?
A very awkward row. This all began on Tuesday when Donald Trump made the very unusual step of submitting a formal complaint to the Federal Commission. That complaint was about Sophia Patel, who was Labour's head of operations, posting on LinkedIn, essentially advertising for Labour activists and staffers to go over to the US to campaign for Kamala Harris in the election. She said there were 10 spots left on this sort of official trip for for Labour activists to go over to America. Now, Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner have said that those activists were travelling in their own time, they were volunteering, it wasn't organised by the Labour Party. But that post by Sophia Patel slightly undermines that claim, because it does sound as though the Labour Party itself was coordinating this trip. So that's pretty awkward for Keir Starmer and his government. But what makes matters worse is, in the last couple of days, Morgan McSweeney, the new Chief of Staff who replaced Sue Gray, has been brought into this row too. Him and Matthew Doyle, who's Keir Starmer's head of press, went over to this Democratic convention in the summer. Now, Matthew Doyle, his ticket was paid for by a progressive think tank with links to Clinton, but Morgan McSweeney, his ticket was paid for by the Labour Party, and Donald Trump suggests that that means that the Labour Party was getting involved with the election, and Donald Trump alleges that actually Morgan McSweeney was advising Kamala Harris on her campaign. Well, Morgan McSweeney says no, he was just there to observe, but let's see where the Federation for Commission comes down.
We have reached out to the Labour Party and they said it's common practice for campaigners of all political persuasions from around the world to volunteer in US elections. Where Labour activists take part, they do so at their own expense in accordance with the laws and rules.
Now, lots of you getting in touch on Stephen's poppy. Let me just scroll down on your very fancy laptop that I don't know how to work.
No, you don't know how to work.
Bianca says, Stephen, do what I do. I wear my small, lovely enamel pin and the paper poppy just below it. So you could do both.
Could do both. Jazz says I should put it on my tie because it'd show up more.
Yeah, that's also a very good idea.
So there you go. Or, wear them, and someone else who's just scrolled past said wear them both. So yes, maybe that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
Freddie
that's a very good idea.
Fall says wear them both.
Well, we're talking about that because it is, of course, that time of the year again where the armed forces community is launching the Royal British Legion's annual Poppy Appeal.
Let's talk to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who's at the HMS President base in East London. Morning, Charlie.
Morning, Stephen. Morning, Ellie. There is no right way to wear your poppy, Stephen. You can relax. Ignore those your say comments criticising you for wearing it incorrectly or whatever they're saying, because all that the Royal British Legion wants you to do is wear one with pride and donate to the cause, because last year they raised over £51 million. They're trying to beat that again this year, one of their greatest fundraising years since COVID as well. And this year they're focusing on mental scars. We know, don't we, that service personnel put life and limb at risk, but all too often it's the hidden injuries that don't get the attention they deserve. So this morning at HMS President, a naval base in East London, we have seen physical training instructors from all three services leading in stretching and mindfulness sessions. I've got one going on just behind me right now to my left. It's a beautiful view in the backdrop for them as well. Stretching and reflecting with the Tower Bridge and the City of London in the distance. And there have been several of these sessions this morning. And they're doing this as we reach several anniversaries this year in our culture of remembrance. It's the 80 years since D-Day. It's also the 80th anniversary of Operation Market Garden in Arnhem. Two events that this channel honoured on location to commemorate the brave soldiers, sailors and airmen who fought in those battles. But the Royal British Legion is asking us to reflect on those physical and those mental sacrifices. And this morning, you can see her just now in the middle there. That's Ruby, aged 11, at the front of this session. We spoke to her this morning, a couple hours ago, and she told us about why she'd been an activist and had been campaigning for the Legion and all the money she'd raised and why she'd gone out to do it. Let's play a clip from that now. Ruby, tell us about what you've raised for the RBL and why you get involved with the campaigning.
I was 4 years old raising money for the RBL by collecting glasses in the pub. And then I went on to making paper cards, and over time it's just progressed. It feels good all the time when I'm raising money because I know it's going to go to someone who actually needs it.
Dan, you must be enormously proud of your daughter.
Oh, I'm immensely proud. I mean,
I couldn't imagine to do anything like that when I was her age. And I mean, she gets up at silly o'clock in the morning and she's working tirelessly on her crafts and puts in so much effort. It is absolutely brilliant.
Well, that was Dan Sheffield, the father of Ruby, that 11-year-old campaigner for the Legion. Dan, a veteran of the Royal Logistics Corps. He was a driver. He served in Afghanistan. And the RBL, the Legion, is today reaffirming and displaying all the support that they have available to ex-service personnel, to our veteran community, not just in Britain, but around the world. They have a global reach in support. And what they're particularly keen to do today is demonstrate the support they have to help heal some of those mental scars that you might have from service. Now, soldiers, sailors and airmen, they are extraordinarily resilient people. They're taught about emotional regulation, but the strain of that work, putting your life at risk and fighting and serving alongside so many others, can cause those scars to occur after service. And that's why the Royal British Legion is ready to support them wherever possible.
Such important work. Charlie Peters, thank you very much indeed. And what a beautiful sight there over Tower Bridge in East London. Let's go over to Jack Carson now, shall we, who's in Liverpool for us this morning. Good morning to you, Jack.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Well, it's the Poppy Day here in the northwest, and we know how important selling the poppy is to the money that the Royal British Legion need. As you were hearing from Charlie just there about how they support the veterans and how going forward over the next 12 months they can provide everything and the support that they need. And I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Stuart Still, who's the Royal British Legion Community Engagement Officer. Stuart, just tell us, why this appeal is so important every year, why it's important that we have remembrance every year.
So the Royal British Legion's work supporting our armed forces community, serving and retired, is extremely important to the nation. It's important to every one of us, and by showing our support by wearing a poppy allows them who have signed on to serve in difficult circumstances potentially to show they can see this public support without having to say anything to them. So it's extremely important, and it shows that a future generation who potentially may join the military will see that the nation supports them in what they do.
Yeah, and it's important, isn't it, education really within this, and letting, educating the younger generation as to why remembrance is so important, why we make so much effort every year to remember those fallen heroes.
So yes, the fallen heroes, exactly, but also those who suffer through service, and that's what we here at the Royal British Legion do, to support them. So the mental health through to physical health, and this year with the focus on mental health, where we have PPE, body armour and helmets, which will protect us physically, but it's about how we deal with those mental scars. And not everybody will suffer through service, and not everyone will suffer through combat. But humanitarian work that the armed forces do, we're here to support them through that. We're also here to look at that generation and say, we will support you as the British Legion, and the nation supports you by supporting us to do our work by wearing a poppy.
All right, Stuart, thank you so much for joining us this morning. There's going to be more veterans joining us throughout the day and this morning as the North West Poppy Appeal gets underway.
Fantastic stuff. Jack, thanks very much indeed. Well, if you want to donate, of course you can do if you see people out and about collecting, which is a great way to do it, or you can go online at the Royal British Legion's website, which is britishlegion.org.uk. That's what I did.
And a nice message from Charlie Peters there. There's no wrong way to wear a poppy.
Yeah, that's
important
right.
that you wear one with pride and donate to the Royal British Legion as well.
It's very true.
Now, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. Every day, we're going to be running our poll of the day. And today, we're asking, do you think that young people take pride in wearing the poppy? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day. But here's a teaser of the results so far. The live results are on the screen now. Currently, 14% of you say yes, 78% of you say no, and 8% say they don't know.
Well, the final result will be announced in Martin Daubney's show later on this afternoon. And for all of our latest polls, news, and to find out how to vote, go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now, and the clock is ticking on to get your entries in because lines close tomorrow.
They do, so make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win 36 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. And you really good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to you. So 24 hours, a little bit more to go on that one. And then someone's in for a very nice phone call.
Yeah, 36 grand. I'd go on holiday, you put it in your pension.
Yes, I would. That makes me sound really boring.
You are very boring when it comes to money. He's not a spender.
No.
But that's a good thing, really.
Spend when I'm
Well done,
retired.
you.
Yes,
Well
thank
done,
you. Right, coming up, we're going to get the latest live from Samoa as the King and Queen continue their tour. That's next.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
We shouldn't have to do this, Rebecca. These men should have been compensated long ago.
They shouldn't have to fight for recognition. And this is what's happened over the last 72 years. So all the way through from the test through to the present day, they've known that something happened to them. They've seen what they've been through, their medical conditions, the fact that many of these servicemen died well before their time. And they were ignored in a way that other countries didn't ignore their similar testing veterans. So other nuclear powers across the world, the US, for example, compensated and recognised their nuclear testing veterans many, many years ago. Yet, unfortunately, successive governments in the UK failed to do that. After the long campaign for medallic recognition, finally, these servicemen received medallic recognition, but it came in a jiffy bag in the post, which is not the way to honour the service that these men gave to our country. There needs to be an understanding and an uncovering of the truth of what they actually went through. They've been fighting for many years for access to their medical records, for example, urine and blood tests that they know were taken during their service. But when many of these families have tried to access their records, these test results seem to be missing, and there's no explanation as to why this has happened.
What basis does the Ministry of Defence say it's not our responsibility?
Well, we know from other studies across the world and subsequent studies, it showed, staggeringly that these men were exposed to the same amount of radiation as clean-up workers at Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Now, the King and Queen have embarked on a state visit to Samoa, braving the heat and humidity to strengthen ties and enjoy the culture of the South Pacific island.
Well, our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is there and has been taking in all the action.
Well, it's incredibly rare for a senior member of the royal family to visit the island of Samoa. In fact, the last time was in the 1970s when it was the late Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip visiting on the royal yacht Britannia. This time, of course, it is the King and Queen, and there is intense heat and humidity here in the South Pacific, so they're not wearing their traditional suit and tie or dress for the Queen. The King has a bespoke outfit made for him by a Savile Row tailor. Apart from the trim, which has been designed by the Samoan School of the Arts, Camilla Camilla is wearing a Anna Valentine tunic. And earlier today, the King and Queen visited a local village in the north of the island, Mowata. We were there too, and you'd be mistaken that it was actually Great Britain because it was pouring down with rain and there were Union flags absolutely everywhere. But they were there for a very special reason, a traditional ceremony which happens very rarely. Take a look. A tiny village hall in a very remote part of the world decked out with the British flag, welcoming two visitors who are recognised by billions. Very shortly, His Majesty the King is going to have a High Chief title bestowed upon him, and these local school children have all come to witness the proclamation. Talofa! Village life is central to the Samoan way, with a focus on family, church and duty, very similar to the royal family's ways. Village Chief Furatai explains why they're granting special status to His Majesty.
You just can't have a cup of tea with the king. We need to give him a welcoming ceremony in our cultural context, and that's what we're doing, you know. We say, welcome your majesty, but as well, we confer on you this title so that you can take back to Great Britain and remember our village, also Samoa.
The king mingled with villagers before rushing off to another engagement, but the queen stayed behind, focusing on one of her passions, children's literacy. She watched how traditional storytelling techniques using the Bible help the children learn to read. Members of the local church presented Queen Camilla with gifts, showing their appreciation for her visit. Afterwards, I caught up with some of the students about what it means for them.
Great news for our village. Today has ended well. It was really nice meeting the Queen and the King.
We're very excited for this opportunity. We're so overwhelmed and thankful Queen Camilla. It's a pleasure for us to meet the Queen and the King of Great Britain.
Tomorrow, the King's focus is on the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, a family of 56 independent nations, with King Charles as the symbolic head. Well, afterwards, the King came here to the Sheraton Hotel in Apia, which is the capital city, for the Commonwealth Business Forum, and also to get a briefing on his Sustainable Markets Initiative. That's something he set up in 2020, trying to encourage the private sector to get involved with sustainability and combat climate change with targets. So he received a briefing on that, learnt about how the different 56 Commonwealth nations are working together to create perhaps a stronger trade partnerships or trading partnerships in the face of the modern world. And tomorrow, the Commonwealth is very much the theme here. The King, of course, is the head of the Commonwealth. It is the first time he has presided over these conferences as its head. He deputised for his mother on behalf of his mother in 2022. But it is all go for the King. He's already done a 6-day tour of Australia. He is 75 years old, almost 76. He has cancer, but he still appears to be going strong.
That's Cameron Walker there for us in Samoa.
Right, as you probably got, I'm busy gossiping with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, because they're coming up at 9:30 this morning. What have you got in store, you two?
There's always something to gossip about, isn't there? What we're talking about this morning, well, the story we were just discussing then is a brilliant one about a farmer who catches two teenagers on his land and then he ties them to his quad bike and takes them to the police station.
Fantastic.
I mean, he hog-tied them.
He literally hog-tied them.
Good.
The remarkable thing is that he managed to restrain two quite big teens, tie them up and put them on his quad bike and march them down to the police station.
How far would you go to protect your own property? It's very good.
Well,
good question.
good
talking point.
It is a good talking point, but I think there's a difference between protecting your property and hog-tying two teenagers, balancing them on a quad bike and driving it for 4 miles.
They shouldn't have been trespassing on his land.
No, they shouldn't, but he shouldn't have done that either. He's been arrested, hasn't he?
Yeah, do you think they'll need counselling, poor things?
Probably.
Probably. I think there's...
They won't do that again, though, will
exactly,
they?
No.
You've got
It's called rough justice, Stephen. Grow some.
Ooh.
Grow some rough justice.
There we are. Grow some. And we're also talking about reparations, which are going to dominate this Commonwealth Summit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
do you think they will? Because it's been...
I guarantee...
Starmer said no.
The communique which is released at the end, which will be unanimously signed, will mention reparations.
Well, Lisa Nandy's talked about it just this morning. We'll tell you what she said, the Media, Culture and Sports Secretary.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, you two. Lots to come at 9:30.
Right, that's it from us. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and breezy at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, let's have a look at the weather.
warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's a fine autumn day out there, dry and bright, and some of us seeing some good spells of sunshine, but it will be quite windy, especially in western areas, those winds continuing to strengthen around western coasts. As I said, for many, it'll be dry and bright, quite a lot of sunshine across East Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down towards Kent. There'll be some sunshine elsewhere as well, but there will generally be more clouds in the west, but even here, some blue sky coming through at times. Those winds are coming up from the south, so wafting up quite mild air, so particularly in the sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens in and around the London area. Should be a fine day on the Murray Firth with those southerly winds bringing fine conditions here, but in the far northwest there will be a weather front that's likely to bring cloud and some rain at times through the day across the Western Isles, that trickling towards the west coast come evening time. We'll also see some of that rain just creeping towards County Fermanagh, but again, most of the day, much of Northern Ireland dry and cloudy. North Wales seeing some breaks in the cloud, but the cloud thickening across the southwest, and here just a small chance of one or two late showers. Increasingly through this evening, though, the threat of more showery rain coming up across southwest England, into South Wales and across Northern Ireland. Could be quite heavy in places as this rain band spreads further north as we go through the night. Much of the east and most of Scotland will stay dry overnight, clearer skies, allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures across the far northeast, but for most, another pretty mild night with double digits to start Friday. We are going to start with a lot of clouds, and we will see some outbreaks of rain. Some uncertainty about how quickly this band of rain progresses tomorrow, but there could be some heavy showers around, particularly Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, and eventually creeping up into Northern England. But brighter skies should follow down to the south and west, and again, much of Scotland dry. And again, for most of us, temperatures in the mid-teens. Bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 towards Belfast, the entry slip road at junction